weekend. I had a restful weekend.
Super.
One of those, the NEA decided Friday, forget everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I forgot even you. I forgot you.
You forgot me. Don't do it again.
No. It was
Might be to
actually
your
very
detriment that you forgot me.
good. Yeah.
Wow. That's not a compliment for a girl on a Monday morning. Just in case you think it is not. Can you imagine? Telling me that he forgot me and that is good.
Yeah.
Go slow in the imagination. You want me to imagine what?
That he said he forgot me and it's a good thing.
But I don't have to imagine. I heard him say it.
And now, as in now, imagine the what's the word I'm even looking for, Seth? I don't even know.
Just say it in Nigerian.
The effrontery.
Okay.
That is deep Nigerian.
It's deep.
Where?
Effrontery.
City, how is your effrontery this morning?
Wow.
Well, my effrontery, if I were to use my imagination, is doing very, very well this morning. I am well. Luckily, my friend, this weather.
Hey.
What's wrong with you people?
It has just decided.
The rain bit isn't bad. I like rain. But the cold bit, no.
Don't like it. I love the cold. But I mean,
Must it get cold when it rains?
It can, but you know, it also needs to behave moderately. Okay? It just can't get very, very, very cold. It's not good.
Yeah.
okay. So we need to talk to the gods of the rain to tell them to just take it easy a little bit, Abby.
Hey.
I think when gods were being invented, in the plural sense of the word, they had not.
When they were being invented.
Yes, they hadn't invented gods of solar heating. Rain, water, wind, sun, but solar, that direct solar heating, but otherwise, even just general, I guess the sun was supposed to encompass all that, gods of warmth and so forth. But this weather is actually getting to be really very chilly.
It's going to be all right.
It is.
It's going to heat up soon enough.
It is.
This isn't a complaint. I am merely stating that it is cold.
It's cold.
Yes. And I am also aware that it doesn't matter how often I say it, it's not suddenly going to get warm.
Yeah.
I am also aware of that fact.
It doesn't change.
No, it doesn't change. But I can dress warmer
And you can be all right.
and I will be better.
Eric, you don't like the cold?
Nah, not when it's this cold.
Okay. Ndoni.
It's better when it's
You know,
not.
it hinders thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not very good.
Though I have to be fair here, I have encountered colder situations than this one.
I'm sure you have.
Yes, Mount Kenya. Climbed it 3 times.
Wow. Okay, so this is not
let
too
me be
bad.
specific so that people don't think I got to Nelian. I got to Lenana. 3 times.
Super duper. Okay. The cold is not too bad.
And you're just dropping it just like that.
No
Just
biggie.
thought I would just
Climbing
mention,
Yes,
since we're
Lenana.
talking cold, let's talk about places that are usually just cold generally. The sun can be shining on that mountain and it's cold.
But it
It's
makes
cold.
no
And you can
difference.
see the sun,
And you can see it.
and you're even closer to it than normal. But it's cold.
All right. Welcome to the show. We'll have a lot to discuss today. Donald Trump is going to the courts. Also, he claims. Maybe, maybe not. But the world is reacting to the clear election of Joe Biden
Yeah.
as the next president of the United States. And then what happens with that? And Donald is sulking left, right, and center, but he's playing golf
Don't worry, he'll be okay.
just to get his mind off things.
Are you suggesting that if I were to sulk, the best thing to do while sulking,
golf.
you play golf, it's a good
Yeah,
companion
you
for
walk
the
it
sulk.
off. Walk it off. You'll be all right.
And you swing it.
But it's important to have golf clubs, isn't it?
In order to play golf, yes.
Yes, and perhaps to be a member of a golf club.
Yes.
My goodness, hindrances.
Problems.
Yes.
Because it has some kind of financial implication, Abi, how?
Yeah, and also it's not something you can play in your house.
Yeah, this is a limiting factor. Yeah. Unless it's miniature golf.
And then there's a conference that's about to happen in, 2 days, 3 days in Paris, France.
Yes.
Brings in together who?
Development banks around the world, development financial organizations, talking about what's going to happen post-COVID and how can we finance that
Yep.
as the world.
Yep. So it's important to have that conversation. We'll be having it in the 7 o'clock hour. Plus many other things. Keep it right here. Let's start with COVID-19. People have been arrested over the weekend.
Yeah.
Hey.
They have.
They have quite a number of people
Where,
arrested over the
in
weekend.
Kenya.
Yes.
Okay.
Even
What did they
closer to
do?
you in Nairobi. They went to drink and party, and then they stayed out past 10 o'clock. Remember Uhuru Kenyatta had said that there's curfew now. The hours had then been brought forward to 10
He did.
as opposed to 11. He did, though.
When did he say that?
Last week on Tuesday.
Wait, I thought the curfew began at midnight.
No, see now after President Uhuru spoke on it was Wednesday. I beg your pardon. So when he said this, CT, he said that now, because of what we are seeing, let's now roll back on some of these things and let curfew now end at 10 as opposed to 11, and it starts at 4 in the morning. So in other words, wherever you are, you must then leave that place and make sure you're off the roads, be at home by 10 o'clock. Now, apparently this message did not ring clear in the ears of many revelers who decided that they were going to go out and have the odd drink and decided that, okay, it's 10 minutes to 10, we can make it. Since we've not left, let's just continue. Security forces, police, and others decided, no, we're not having it. Arrests happened in Nairobi, arrests happened in Mombasa, led by the Governor Joe himself, to say, no, we said go home. And a lot of these people who were arrested were, however, released on cash bail the following morning. But that's it. They're not taking it as a joke. You're outside past 10, you will be arrested. There's no please or I beg.
Meaning they targeted places where they knew people would go to, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
It can't be that they arrested everybody who was out after 10.
No, not
Specific
everybody. I don't
places.
think they would have been able to handle
didn't have
it.
the
I
capacity.
think there are some people who got away with it for sure. But Mombasa Road was a target. Langata Road was a target. City Centre was. I don't even know. Why would you continue staying in the city centre? Anyway, parts of the city centre were targets. So this is what we saw. It would appear that they're not joking this time around. But let's see.
And
This
there
is
was a
another
period
week.
in time when they were joking?
No, they were not taking it as, as...
Seriously?
Now they're very serious.
You know, this
For a
phenomenon...
couple of days. Let's
For
see
some
how
days.
long
Let's see how
lasts.
it happens by Friday. Another Friday is coming.
You know, we think it's a Kenyan phenomenon. It isn't. It's a human phenomenon. And the reason why certain countries in Europe now are instituting serious lockdowns is precisely because of that. Human beings will do what they think they want to do,
Yep,
irrespective of whatever danger you tell them may be afoot.
that's yours.
Right.
So let's look at the numbers around the world. We are now at 50,728,891 COVID-19 cases around the world, with 1,261,971 deaths, unfortunately. 15 million, remain active cases. Rather, let's take it down a little bit. 13,674,332 remain active cases around the world. And a lot of these active cases are those that require hospitalization or more. The United States crossed the 10 million mark over the weekend and now are at 10,288,480 with almost 250,000 deaths. It is one of the things that President-elect Biden wants to tackle head on. And he had been talking about this and saying that, the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in the United States had been put on the back burner because of the election that was taking place. But even with the whole hullabaloo about whether he's president-elect or whether Donald Trump is leaving or not, today they're forming a committee that's going to actually deal with that. Looking at the numbers that we're seeing coming out of the United States, yesterday alone, 102,726 new cases in the US yesterday. Yeah, that's a big number, however you want to look at it. That's more than the number of cases China has ever had. How about that for some perspective? China's still under 86,000 cases. Yesterday alone, the United States reported 102,000 cases. Just throwing those numbers out there so we can see how serious things actually are. And looking at the numbers of deaths as well, it's quite serious. India at 8.5 million, Brazil at 5.6 million, and France at 1.7. France is also racking it up there. Last week, where they were at number 8, they are now at number 4 in the world. And let's look again, even with the lockdown that has been instituted in this country, yesterday, France reported 38,619 new cases and 207 deaths. All right, let's bring it home just for a few seconds and see what's happening. If we look across the continent, also, we do have an increase in COVID-19 cases from Nigeria to Ghana, through the West African belt, and then coming down east into East Africa. Kenya yesterday recorded 719 new cases and 8 new deaths, taking the number now well over 62,000. 62,488 COVID-19 cases
How
in
many deaths?
Kenya, with 1,111 deaths so far.
That's big. So what are the numbers looking like now? You've said the West African belt.
Yeah.
What are they looking like?
Okay, so let's look at some of those numbers, right? If we can start it off with Ghana, where there's, interestingly enough, there a few days towards their presidential election. Ghana now has 49,102 cases of COVID and 300, very low death, still quite low death toll. Yesterday reported 198 new cases, and according to President Nana, this is too much. We should be at below 10, below those numbers now. Many would say that's not the case, but yes, it's too much.
What's the death toll in Ghana so far?
320. So that has been low. Okay, so if we look at other big hitters around the continent, let's look specifically at Nigeria. Nigeria now has 64,090 cases with 1,154 deaths. Yesterday, Nigeria recorded 300 new cases, 255 of those being in the Lagos state area alone, and 5 around the country. Lagos with its high population, this is not surprising, but the rest of the country seems to have kept things really low. But this is the highest number of cases that Nigeria has recorded in the last few weeks. Okay, so it continues to rise. 300 the highest. Last week was 223, but then we're down at 180, and even before that 137 and 150. So it had really reduced. But if we're talking about masks and social distancing and those things are fairy tales now. It doesn't really happen. Nobody's really bothered about that in Nigeria. Hopefully those cases will not rise, but this is what we are seeing. Okay, schools have opened. People are going back to school. Nobody is really concerned about the spread anymore.
Has the situation, is it getting worse in South Africa, or is it, South Africa had a couple of spikes?
Yeah, South Africa had quite a number of spikes where they were number 5 in the world at some point, now been overtaken by Russia. South Africa now has 737,278 cases. However, they saw a decline in the number of cases that were being reported. And still now around 1,000 that they're seeing. So with 1,372 new cases yesterday and 20 new deaths, that's the lowest number of cases that they have seen over the last month or so. So whereby they were recording 1,600, 1,000, 2,000, 1,700, 1,000. So now they were at 1,372. But still in the thousands, right? Whereby mid-July and mid-August, they were reporting daily cases of 13,900. So things have reduced quite significantly so. And interestingly, the number of people in hospital also has reduced significantly. Whereby they didn't really have an issue in terms of a burdened health system, where people were reporting to hospital and then having to be turned away. That didn't really happen. But now they're not seeing cases as such reporting to hospital with symptoms. But testing continues. If we look at the number of tests that have been done in South Africa so far, I'm just going to pull that up for you really quickly. Out of a population very close to that of Kenya's. So South Africa, 59 million in population. They've done almost 5 million tests. So 4,980,440 total tests have been done in South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time for us to take a break at 6:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for choosing us this morning. Our live stream is up, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
COVID-19 imeimpact lives za wasee wengi sana. Watu lose jobs kutoka mama mboga, business owner next door, neighbor amefungiwa hao na landlord. Pesa imekuwa mteja, haipatikani hata ya kuweka chakula kwenye meza. Ili kujenga jirani, unaweza toa suu moja, 100 bob only, na hii inaweza badilisha maisha ya Wakenya wengi sana. Na usisahau kuungana na sisi for the Jenga Jirani Charity Festival 7th and 8th of November on KTN Home, na pia itakuwa online on www.jengajirani.org. See you then, ili tujenge jirani and show some love.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
COVID-19 imeimpact lives za wasee wengi sana. Watu lose jobs kutoka mama mboga, business owner next door, neighbor amefungiwa hao na landlord. Pesa imekuwa mteja, haipatikani hata ya kuweka chakula kwenye meza. Ili kujenga jirani, unaweza toa suu moja, 100 bob only, na hii inaweza badilisha maisha ya Wakenya wengi sana. Na usisahau kuungana na sisi for the Jenga Jirani Charity Festival 7th and 8th of November on KTN Home, na pia itakuwa online on www.jengajirani.org. See you then, ili tujenge jirani and show some love.
The weather with Spice FM.
In Nairobi this morning at 17, we'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's chilly Monday morning. Let's see what it looks like through the day. In Nakuru, rain showers also at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 14. It's 15 degrees and experiencing rain in Nyeri, highs of 23 and lows of 14. 14 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 13. Rain showers being experienced in Kisumu at the moment at 19. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 18 today. It's mostly cloudy in Kakamega, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Rain showers being experienced in Mombasa, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Light rains in Malindi at 19, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Out of Kenya now into Kampala, it's light rain as well, 25 the high and lows of 19 today. Rain showers also being experienced in Dar es Salaam at 24, highs of 28. Going into Johannesburg, it's a warm day already. Clear skies at 17 degrees. Sunny conditions to last through the day with highs of 26 and lows of 16. Rain showers going into thunderstorms being experienced in Lagos at 25. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24 today. Also seeing rain showers in Kinshasa at 25. Highs of 32 and lows of 24. Look out into Beijing, where at 13 degrees it's sunny. See highs of 16 and lows of 2. And in Paris, clear skies at 10, highs of 16 and lows of 9. And in London, it's mostly cloudy at 13, highs of 16 and lows of 12. Where for now, Sunday night in New York, it's clear at 16, getting into highs of 22 and lows of 13 through Monday.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Chapter 6, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. Who's online, Ndu?
Okay, so Lawrence K. Carrier, good morning, friends. Wish you a great week ahead. Tuned in. Thank you very much. And Laban Tanui Kaptel, live from Nandi County. Robin Bogo is tuned in from Mombasa. Good morning, Spice crew, he says. The Situation Room, good morning from Charity Minor. Benson. We wouldn't mention their names twice. Minor and Benson.
So good.
I
It has
know.
been named twice.
Is it Eric? That's how I shall be calling you.
Murder.
Benson Mumo says, good morning, listening in. Olo Caleb, good morning. And Bade Ashley, tuned in from Machakos. I'm assuming that's what that is, right?
It's Machakos.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning and welcome, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Today's Proverbs CT.
When a king reigns, it is thanks to the people.
When what?
A king, mfalme, reigns, it is thanks to the people. When a river sings, it is thanks to the stones.
That's really deep.
It's so deep, man.
Like the river.
When a king reigns, it's thanks to the people.
Yes.
When a river sings,
Yes, sings.
it is thanks to the stones.
A river is never silent. There's this splashing sound it makes. There are those who claim it is rhythmic. But for it to splash, it has to hit against something.
Okay. It's like saying it takes the people to have a king.
The king will have nothing to be king over if there are no people.
Without the stones, the river cannot sing.
Yes, it's the river. Note, water bodies such as lakes cannot claim any song. Unless they, of course,
They're flowing and
yes, or unless the waves,
waves,
push the water and they hit the beach
okay.
or the land surface,
Especially the rocks.
especially the rocks.
All right. That's a good one. So let's take a look at the headlines this morning. Where do you want to start? Who wants to go first? You.
So,
Okay.
who's you? Me now, me. Oh, okay. Ndu. So, let's look at the front page of the Standard. Governors and MCA draw up demands to back BBI. That's interesting. But on the front page of The Nation, MCAs face legal horror in 2022. A law passed in 2012 has come back to haunt politicians as they must now have a degree to run for any seat. But the County Assembly's Forum has vowed to move to court to block the requirement as they say it is unconstitutional and against the will of the people. Now, which people here? I don't know if these are the rocks that make the river sing, but according to a law passed, this is what is required. And the MCA Assembly, rather the Assembly, does not like it. Now, let's look at the law, whose implementation date had been postponed several times. It's set to take effect in 2022. Members of the National Assembly in 2017 amended Section 22 of the Election Act that prescribes minimum academic qualifications for lawmakers at both levels of government. The amendment requires members of Parliament and members of the County Assembly to have a minimum bachelor's degree before they are cleared to contest. And even though the law was enacted just before the 2017 elections, the National Assembly successfully pushed for the suspension of its implementation after the election in the hope that they would have obtained the documents by 2022. Documents being the degrees. With less than 2 years to go before the next election and with COVID-19 having disrupted the entire academic calendar, the window for acquiring a degree has been effectively shut. It means that politicians planning to vie for seats and do not have the papers will not be cleared to contest. Most universities have remained shut since COVID-19 hit the country in March, with some reopening last week and others expected to resume classes this week. Now, MCAs have vowed to move to court next week to challenge the law requiring them to have a university degree as opposed to, just getting it, terming it to have the potential of subverting the will of the people. The County Assembly's Forum, the caucus...
It's a big debate, eh?
just at the County Assemblies Forum, the caucus that brings together all the 47 county assemblies yesterday, said the provisions contained in the Elections Act of 2013 could lock out a majority of MCAs. Because they, didn't have time to get the document.
So the question is, why the requirement? What's the importance of having a university degree?
What is it that a university degree will do or will benefit this particular process with that currently this process does not enjoy?
What is it lacking now that you will get? So the argument by many is that as a lawmaker, you need to have some good understanding of the processes of lawmaking.
And they believe that a degree would assist in this.
And they believe that that extended education would get you to that level. Okay? So that's the argument. That look, there are those that say, if you look at the quality of pieces of legislation that come out of either of these assemblies, the National Assembly or the county assemblies or even the Senate, it requires somebody who has a bit of, understanding of how then to read and understand what is being proposed.
It's interesting
Or
that
even in drafting a bill, even in proposing a bill.
the MCAs have said that we, as assemblies, are allowed to employ 3 assistants to each MCA. Okay? So they're saying even these degrees that people are talking about that we need, these are the people with qualifications.
The 3 assistants.
Yes, it's these people who should have degrees and not the MCAs.
That's a weak argument. Because if you say assistants have knowledge that you don't have, don't you see yourself being
kicked out
at a
in a minute.
disadvantage?
Yep.
Yes. You should have the knowledge.
But whether the degree is what
Gives you
provides
that
the
skill.
knowledge.
No, the
that
thing is, I think we need to look at, and I think because a degree doesn't give you the knowledge, for crying out loud. What it allows you to do is that it opens your mind, and the process of going through that education then gives you a level of critical thinking that you would not be able to get somewhere else. That's the thing. Because for crying out loud, you could go and study environmental science. What do you know about laws or legislation? However, what it does, the process and what it does then to your mind is something totally different. That's what's not coming out here.
Remember, many of our diploma courses in this country are 3-year courses. Many degree courses are 3-year courses. So in terms of content, are you telling me that the interaction that these individuals have with the knowledge that they're supposed to be acquiring, that one is more significant than the other? And for yes?
So the conversation then should be post-secondary education.
Yes. And then determine, yes, it should be
post-secondary.
Because
Right.
if you simply say a degree, you will be limiting very many people who are very capable and who are very able, who actually could do as good a job. In the field of technical services, for instance, for the longest time, our polytechnics were the preferred place or choice of institutions
education.
that people chose to pick employees from.
Yeah. I think it goes again also like if you raise it. On the one hand, the government is really, really pushing that agenda of TVETs and saying, let's take our youth to the TVETs. Let's ensure that we empower our TVETs so that then we have the technical skills and know-how. But then you're also saying that everybody who goes to the TVETs then is locked out of national leadership positions.
Yes.
All the way from MCA to the presidency.
And
Because
if you-
all of them then would require a university degree.
And if you look at what the sort of work that you will do once you've gone to the TVET, it's work that actually keeps you in touch or gets you to interact
Hands-on
with people
all the time.
people all the time.
Right.
Okay. Now, what is it about lawmaking that requires you to have a degree to understand? Beyond just being literate and beyond understanding how to read and write.
Yep.
What is it?
I actually don't think this is the way to go about this thing, because it almost seems as if it's a slapstick solution approach to having some kind of professionalism within the assemblies, and it's not the way to go. To go and say just have a degree, so I could
It's
do
elevating
anything.
the importance of a degree beyond everything or any other consideration that you may need to have for someone to be in that particular position.
Sure, and
That's
it's not
what you've
looking,
done.
and it's not looking at really the knowledge or understanding that these individuals really would have. It's just saying, so long as you have a degree, then the assumption is that you know what you're doing, which is not the case.
Okay, so how do we strike that balance then? Because you need that balance. You need to have people in the assembly who can at least understand the processes clearly, who can at least even look at a draft, at a bill,
And know what to do with it.
and read a bill and know what to do with it and understand the language being used in the bill. How do we elevate that? It's not necessarily
Post-secondary school qualification, I would say diploma.
At the least.
Yes, a minimum of a diploma.
A minimum of a diploma.
A minimum of a diploma. Because to go through any course for 3 years, believe me, you have interacted with a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
You've expanded your capacity to understand
sure.
things. And you will be able to do things that ordinarily someone who has simply left secondary school will not be able to
do.
Yes.
True.
Time for us to take a break. On that note, 28 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the situation room. What's happening on these roads this Monday morning? It's raining in Nairobi. Well, it was raining about 1.5 hours ago. Don't know whether it's still raining, whether it was all parts of Nairobi that are raining again. That's the other thing. This rain. All we know is that it's cold.
Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Malindi.
Okay, let's kick things off on Thika Road this morning, where it's clear all the way to Pangani, and then at the tunnel it starts to slow down. So after the bumps at Survey, you should be fine. There was a small accident causing about a little delay right around Allsops, but that seems to have been sorted out. The police are in fine form this morning and trying to get things clear so that you get where you're going. The craziness on Mombasa Road, however, started as early as 6 in the morning today. And the heavy downpour didn't help things either. So stay safe. There is poor visibility on many busy roads this morning because of the showers that happened earlier and continue to sprinkle out and about. So it's Mombasa Road on Thika Road that we're looking at right now. Coming into the city then from Westlands, also looking not so bad right now. You can use the Red Hill bypass if you do get stuck, but I don't see you getting stuck then as you're headed out that way. So coming off Langata Road, coming off of Gong Road as well, as you get to the city mortuary roundabout, it's going to slow down a little bit. Traffic is building up there as you then either go towards Valley Road or you then go towards further Greater and Gong Road. Apart from that, it's not looking too bad. Okay? Edwin, you're asking me what the weather is in Wilmington, Delaware. I don't know, but we'll check it out. Okay? Spice of MKE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter or text us on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
6 minutes to 7. More headlines. County hospitals crippled as 6 billion shillings PPEs lie idle at KEMSA. This is one of the other headlines. Page 9 of the Standard this morning. Lack of critical medical equipment due to inaction at government agency immobilizes counties, exposing health workers and patients to the virus as suppliers cry foul. The question now is, who will come to their aid? Okay. So we discussed this briefly, I think, also last week. PPE is worth 6.2 billion shillings at KEMSA. Now dead stock as investigations into alleged procurement irregularities drag on. KEMSA is in a catch-22 situation because it can neither dispose of the items nor procure new ones, yet the counties need to be equipped to handle the second wave of the virus. The Ministry of Health says 2,011 healthcare workers have been infected, with 22 of them dying across 42 counties. So this is something that you wonder, all right, so investigations are ongoing, so this PPEs and all the stock that had been bought during this time, which is the subject of investigation, to be held as evidence. They were bought so we can deal with this emergency. The emergency is still going on. In fact, we have a spike on the emergency. So what happens? Do you release? Do you hold them?
Can we go back to basics? Why are we holding them exactly?
Because we're investigating.
Is the investigation actually going on? Let's just be serious. Are they doing anything about
All
it?
right, let's say the investigations are going on. What is it in the investigations that requires these things to be held for that length of time?
First of all, to determine whether the quantities were delivered.
And how many days does that require?
Many. Then
Let's count it to August, September, October. We're now in November. That's when they've been holding these things.
I mean,
They've
surely
not finished counting them.
I would have assumed that any due process to determine whatever they want to determine should have
taken place by now.
or a specific time, meaning by this time, Surely, when you import things, how long does it take for you to verify that what you asked for is what you've received? Does it take 4 months? It doesn't.
It doesn't take 4 months.
Yes.
There are officers who work at KEMSA who have not been taken to court, who are not under investigation, whose job it is to verify. So items arrive. This is what we asked for. Is it what you've delivered?
Precisely.
Does
Is
meet
it the quality? Is it the whatever?
All the specifications
Does it even
met,
require a
tick,
week,
tick, tick,
honestly?
tick, tick, tick. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So once that is done and you've accepted that supplier so-and-so, you delivered X units and they've all met the specifications, move on. Now the issue is supplier so-and-so hasn't been paid as well. Some haven't been paid.
You know, those are two different issues. Are they returning the goods to the person who supplied it?
Maybe they want to
they're
return
not.
it, Abby, and get their money back.
No, they have not been paid. Those who haven't been paid, are we returning it and saying, folks, I know you brought this, but we don't need it. Have it
At
back.
some point, you see, if you want to dispute and you want to not pay this supplier, you want to give them back their goods.
Now, if it stays that length of time in storage or whatever it is, what about expiry dates? Because we do
For
know.
masks
Yes.
and gumboots.
Yes. And are we sure?
gloves.
Yes. And are we sure? Yes. And are we sure that the storage that these items are in are the sort of the required storage for items such as these?
It's at KEMSA stores. It wasn't moved.
There's a reason why I'm asking. Stores tend to have rats. Okay, and depending on
KEMSA is not closed, City. Just to cut you short and answer this question. KEMSA is still operating. The only thing is that we don't have a CEO because he's now been suspended.
and you need a CEO.
I don't have a procurement manager because he's been suspended. But everybody else is working.
And all I agree with you, Eric. You see the question I'm asking. I
Those
think
guys
you
are still
understand.
getting paid.
Yeah. So all these things that we need to do we need the CEO, the procurement officer? The
No,
answer
we
is no, we
don't.
don't. So why has it not been done? Because it's a court case. What? To determine what
There's
exactly?
no court case.
It's
It's just an
investigation.
investigation.
It's just now to find out exactly what happened.
Imagine.
Suffice to say that somebody's sitting pretty and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because you can't tell me that because you've been counting PPs until now. You don't know where they came from. Who? Come on. They were given 21 days. Were they not? They were given 21 days from the 6th of September. 6th of September, they were given 21. 6 plus 21 is what? Okay, let's even say it was
27.
working. Let's even say it was.
27.
Let's even say it was working days. We didn't count Saturday, Sunday, right? Actually, by now they would have finished 21 days. No. You didn't hear anything.
Also, this is...
You're tired.
Yeah, let's just move on.
Okay. So, speaking of tired, Saudi eases slave-like restrictions on its migrant domestic workers. Tales of Kenyans being subjected to inhumane treatment in Saudi Arabia may soon fizzle out after the Arab country withdrew stringent restrictions on migrant workers. The relaxation of labor restrictions announced on Wednesday by Saudi Arabia's Human Resources Deputy Minister, Abdullah bin Nasser Abuthnain, is part of reforms spearheaded by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The reforms, which are expected to take effect from March next year, are meant to boost the competitiveness of the Gulf Kingdom as a labor destination. So this is what it was known as, and they're trying to change that image. The Islamic country has more than 10 million foreign workers who are predominantly from poor African and Asian countries. Saudi Arabia operates under the oppressive Kafala system, which forbids migrant workers from changing jobs or leaving the country without the employer's consent. Kafala is Arabic for sponsorship system, a worker-employer engagement model that monitors and regulates migrant, domestic, and construction workers in the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. The Kafala system dates back to the 1950s and is widely embraced in Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. So the migrants, informal workers in any of these countries are required to have a host or sponsor. Job seekers are usually linked to potential employers by job agencies. So upon arrival, the workers' welfare, visa, and legal status are taken care of by the employer, who in most cases is the only point of contact for the workers. So now this has been, we've heard stories of this for years, where people go and actually they are mistreated and then begging to come home because they realize the conditions under which they're working is not as flowery as what was promised before they left. And now under Crown Prince now, he's saying that, you know what, let's loosen some of these things a little bit and make it a little bit freer and maybe change the image of Saudi Arabia at the same time.
You know, BBC actually did an entire article, an entire series on this particular subject. And what they were bringing out was modern day slavery.
Yep.
What you're calling mistreatment was actually presented as such.
Sure.
Yes.
You know, when you have this sponsorship system, it's basically that's what it is. You cannot leave the employment of this person until they are the ones who let you go.
So you're an asset that can be transferred.
Yeah.
Sold.
That's what it is. I mean, we've heard very many stories, people who've tried to go and could not, and the conditions under which they work in are less than humane.
Yeah.
But you see, it's made possible because many of the countries where these migrant workers come from, they cannot get employment. Because they are not being employed as some high-level professionals. No. They're house help.
Yeah.
Yes, or construction workers.
It's a domestic level, and that low level
Or manual
jobs.
labor.
Yeah, manual labor.
Yeah.
But also, it raises the issue of the countries. So, and this conversation has been had very many times in this country. What is it that our government does to ensure that the people who are going for these jobs are protected? And then the government will come up, and usually it comes up with all these stories of, there are very many illegal agents who are taking people abroad. We're regulating them. We've shut down all the agencies. We have told them to reapply. These people are finding their way into these countries through the back door. But
you know, for the longest time, Kenyan youth were a good source of human personnel to these people. And it was something that was a source of pride for many families.
Yep.
That general area was referred to as Saudia. That a member of the family was working in Saudia. Why? The returns were evidenced by people putting up houses, buying cars, things that ordinarily they would not be able to do. And people with basic Standard 8 education or Form 4 education could get jobs. Kenya. And Kenyans flooded the Middle East. I'm referring to Kenya specifically. Then the world opened up a little bit. Then Bangladeshis came in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, they were able to do the same job for much less and work even longer hours. So the rule of the game changed. So now, when you have such a situation, it's the usual laws of supply and demand.
It is.
And it didn't change for the better. It has actually gotten worse because other parts of the country who have migrants moving, it has happened more and more and more. Why? Because many of these countries also have growing populations.
Yeah. The thing is that this new directive, however, just if you want to look at Saudi Arabia on its own, this is an initiative of the Crown Prince. And there's several things that he has been trying to do over the last few years to basically clean up the image that Saudi Arabia has had for the longest time. I don't know that it's necessarily going to change significantly in the actual practice of this labor.
It'll take a while.
It was going to take a very long time for it to change. The image and the perception could be that things are changing and that it's different.
The thing is that once the Crown Prince makes this kind of a move, then it's incumbent upon the governments, like the Kenya government, to then work with the Saudi government to ensure that we have a proper structure in which Kenyans who are seeking to work in these countries or in a country like Saudi Arabia can now go formally. Don't take a back seat and then come back and blame people and say, they've just been going and you don't know how they're going. It's a government not doing its job. If the government had a proper formal way in which you want to go and work in Saudi Arabia, this is where you go, this is where you apply, this is how you shall get your
so that they even know
visa,
where you've
passport.
gone to.
You are.
This is your employer, and it's all very clear.
You know, that particular sector, Eric, if you look at it, Kenyans look at it as private enterprise, which the government really does not.
It's none of the government's business.
They don't really bother with it.
Yeah.
They are brought in when something seems to have gone wrong. But otherwise, it's like a complete hands-off approach.
It's a hands-off approach, completely. And this is where we go wrong. 7:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for us to take a quick break, and then we look at more headlines in the papers.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. is done right.
So Magufuli was sworn in, and in his new term, he's already started to do things. There's a gentleman called God Bless. God Bless Lema was a member of parliament for Arusha Urban constituency. He had served for 2 terms, just like we know what happened in the last general election of late last month. Many of the opposition leaders did not secure their seats back into parliament. So Mr. Lema was crossing over. He and his family had crossed over into Kenya through the Namanga border, but they were arrested by Tanzanian authorities. Lema had left his home in a taxi accompanied by his wife, Neema, God bless, their 3 children, and alighted at the Namanga. My wife went to the immigration department, but they refused to stamp the documents, insisting she had to call me. When I went, I told them I didn't have my passport and that I was not accompanying her and the children because she was just going to look for an international school. The officials allowed the family to cross the border while Lema asked for permission to go and look for Kenyan currency to give to his wife. As soon as he crossed the border, he slipped into his lawyer's car. The lawyer, George Luchiri Wajakoya, who was monitoring the proceedings from the safety of the Kenyan side, drove the fugitive MP out of the border town as soon as he and his family entered his car. Things are very bleak in Tanzania, that's what he was saying. I'm the lawyer acting for Chama cha Demokrasia na Maendeleo, Chadema. I knew Lema was coming, and I wanted to hand him over to the UN Human Rights Commission when he crossed. This according to the lawyer, Wajakoya. So the man, basically, was arrested. But he says, Wajakoya says, as soon as the U.S. Embassy opens today, he'll present Lema's case because he has been in communication with the politician. Wajakoya and Tundu Lissu, who's been a thorn in Magufuli's flesh for the last 3 years, were classmates at Warwick in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
And where is Tundu Lissu himself?
He is holed up at the German embassy as we speak, where he has taken refuge. He feels his life is in danger. He has exiled himself while domiciled in Tanzania. Says that he's fearing for his life. Anything could happen at any time. And
So there's a crackdown, basically, left, right, and center.
yes, there's yet another local leader who is currently in Kenya at the moment and saying that, he's taken refuge here in Kenya. He'd rather die in a Kenyan jail than at the hands of the Tanzanian police forces.
The picture that is being painted is that the president of Tanzania is a very vindictive man.
This is the picture that's being painted, yes.
Yes.
So even in loss, because a gentleman like Tundu Lissu says that, still the election was a sham and he's not going to sit back and take that. But at the same time, hiding out in the German
But look at the processes.
embassy.
Before he got to the German embassy, he had been arrested.
Yes, he had.
Okay? Then he was released. On his way to the German embassy, he was arrested,
again.
So now it took the intervention of officials from the German embassy to actually get him released. Now, this doesn't paint a very positive picture.
It does not.
What was he being arrested for?
This contesting the result of the election and saying that the election, in essence, was a sham and saying that the people of Tanzania actually did not
So this is the,
have their voice heard
it
with
would
the
appear
results
that
of this
this is
election.
the official way in which they muzzle dissent.
Yes, we arrest you.
This is a path well trodden.
Doesn't end up very well.
Yes. In fact, it reminds me of a very popular Kenyan saying. Consequences have choices.
They do, right?
Have
Speaking of choices,
Have you heard what I've just said?
I got, my friend, I got you. Speaking of choices, and those ones that have consequences. So, on the front page of the Standard today, it would appear that Donald J. Trump is an isolated man. World leaders have abandoned him, according to the Standard. The high office slowly slipped away from an increasingly forlorn American president who refused and still refuses to concede defeat. Yesterday, a dark gloom hung over the White House upon realization that Trump's second term had gone up in smoke following Joe Biden's election win. So we have leaders from across the world. Israeli PM Netanyahu says, "Congratulations, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Joe, we've had a long and warm personal relationship for nearly 40 years, and I know you as a great friend of Israel." UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says, "Congratulations to Joe Biden. The US is our most important ally, and I look forward to working closely together on our shared priorities from climate change to trade and security." Indian Prime Minister Modi says, "Congratulations, Joe Biden, on your spectacular victory. I look forward to working closely together once again to take the India-US relations to greater heights." This is covered across the Standard 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. so many things being said. We know that today is the day that Donald Trump has said that a lot of this litigation then now will come to the fore in terms of the lawsuits and the evidence that he hopes to bring forward with his legal team about voter fraud and electoral process mismanagement
Remember,
and such.
Counting hasn't ended.
It has not finished, no.
It's still ongoing.
Yes.
Still ongoing.
Yeah. But from the only way that they were able then to announce president-elect was because, he had surpassed the 270, right?
It's just the projections,
It's the
even from those
projections,
counties,
right?
and seeing, all right, so the kind of lead that now Biden has in Pennsylvania, for instance, is
It's clear.
insurmountable.
Yeah. So the process still continues, and I think we've had, interestingly, some people coming from the Republican Party who are sitting senators who said, look, you know what, it would be in his best interest to just concede, but also I think if I quote Mitt Romney and what he said yesterday, that Donald Trump has had a relaxed relationship with the truth and reality. So it's not likely that he's going to go down without a fight. But come January 20th, as is the tradition, there will be a new president in the White House.
All right. Well, come December 14th, there will be an election by the Electoral College. And that's when it should be very clear to him that
Things are
keep
not like
Amanda.
that. Yeah.
Amanda. But, well, let him go through the process. Go to court, fine. Present everything that you want to present, it's fine. And that's a very good thing.
Isn't it a beautiful thing about their system, though?
Yep.
That, you know what, regardless of how ridiculous it may seem to everybody else and whatever is being said, you have your right to bring this before the judicial system and your voice to be heard.
Yep.
Bring it.
Yep.
And we'll deal with it as fairly as we would with anybody else. I think it's a good thing.
And even in spite of all the noise that he's making, the point he's making is, I want this thing and I'm going to court to prove it. And I want to go to court to challenge what I feel was an injustice to me. Not saying any other thing, not saying, I'm not going
saying
to
that
accept.
Biden won.
Not saying that, I'm therefore calling for mass action and all those kind of things and sit-ins and all. This is it. This is about the maturity of a democracy and a system. That there are things that you're even expected to do.
Well, it's stretching it in my view. But that, I think, really is the beauty of what you're saying. Stretch it. Let's see how far it can be stretched. We've never had a president doing what he's doing, but there's always a first time for everything, isn't it?
Yep. There is always. There is always. And it means something. It speaks something. As for the global leaders and them sending congratulatory messages, and whether that is abandoning Trump, well, people like the UK Prime Minister have really been hit back at home. They're told, you see now your friend is gone. So,
well, there are countries who supported Trump openly, like some countries, Latin America. Of course, there's the debate of what is their position currently worldwide. I mean, there are those who are congratulating him. There are those who haven't. But I think at the end of the day, what we tend to forget is that the elections was an American election.
it was an American election. It's an American decision.
Yes, but it also tells you about the power of the U.S. because for people to be this concerned about an election in one particular country, the world over, it tells you that the power, the influence this particular country has over many other countries on earth. And that's why they take such a keen interest.
True.
Remember there was celebration in South Africa?
Yes, sir. Even in the smallest of villages in other countries. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay. Pandemic forces hoteliers to cut rates to woo local tourists. We had this conversation some time back. We even spoke with the Tourism Cabinet Secretary, Najib Balala, who was saying, look. It's about time the local hotel industry, hospitality sector just looked at domestic as your clientele. For the next couple of months, or at least maybe years, you may not get to the levels that you were getting with foreign tourists. So what do? You need to work on that. So hoteliers at the coast have cut rates by up to 55% as they desperately try to woo domestic tourists following the massive cancellation by foreign travelers. The sector is staring at what industry players have described as the worst third quarter in the recent past due to the devastating effects of COVID. In September, the hoteliers projected the sector would start to recover in the third quarter or during December holidays. But several industry players said yesterday that they have been forced to subsidize the rates of all-inclusive packages to woo domestic tourists. Yep, the West is going into another lockdown. This will go well into December, into early next year. So if you are projecting that those guys are going to come, they're not coming.
They're not coming.
We are the ones.
You know, the question that one asks is this: if they're reducing whatever costs they had
By
to
55%.
so are they now going to be trading at a loss? Or are we being shown the margins that they previously put on these products that they've been selling to the public?
I think it would be the latter, because they can do this. They can do this with the expectation then that they would have high numbers, right, and that their accommodations would be full, and they would not be going at a loss. They would be making some money, which for me then goes to show that this is a move that you should have made even before the pandemic. To ensure that your hotels are full with local tourists is actually not a problem.
You know, it's been done before.
But are they, when they reduce by 55%, there must be also something else that goes. There must be quality of service that goes. There's
Quality
something,
would drop.
Something that drops. It's not for free.
It isn't for free, but you know, it isn't the first time this has happened. They're wooing local tourists.
Yep.
And if I recall, the time when they did, it worked. Because to understand it, now with the county systems coming into being, you've seen how all over the country, counties, you'll find businesses in that particular industry mushrooming.
Yep.
They were not looking for tourists from abroad. It was locals. Now, where did they drop the ball? Because this had been happening. It looks like they forgot and then started focusing on visitors who, should we say, come from abroad.
And it's still going to be tough, even for the local tourists, because
But there is no money.
the assumption would be that, it's those people who are bringing money now, they can't come, but there is money circulating locally. There is no money even in the domestic market.
No, there isn't.
So who is it that is going to afford to take a holiday anyway? Even that 13,000 shillings. So you've dropped your rates from 35,000 shillings to about 18,000 shillings. Who's going to afford 18,000 bob? How many people can afford that? So if you're going for volumes, you may still not get the volumes. It's a tough time for the hospitality industry. Really tough time. But they ought to do everything that they can to ensure that they stay afloat. And they start thinking of the best way to, woo local tourists, local travelers to their facilities. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Soon we'll be live on KTN Home as well, but we are live on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa it's 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi is 97.7, and Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. spicefm.co.ke is our website. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Picking up on the roads this morning. Okay, let's look at Mombasa Road. It's bumper to bumper, guys, all the way from the SGR already, and the rain continues to come down. So the sprinkle is not helping things at all. It means that it slowed down quite some, guys. I'm asking you to be very, very careful as we go through this. Because the roads are extremely slippery. Okay, so it's bumper to bumper situation on Mombasa Road. We see the same on Thika Road as trying to get towards the Pangani Tunnel. It's slowed down quite a bit there as well. Coming out of Westlands and then trying to head into the CBD, also very, very slow this morning. We will come back and look at that in a short while, but also remembering that the fog is low in some parts. Visibility is also poor, so asking that you take care. So the eastern and southern bypasses can be used. Also, it's crazy traffic this morning already on Monday as everybody's getting back into work. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, where you can, please be careful. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
It is
day.
now 2.5 minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room. And as we begin this hour, we welcome our audience on KTN Home, who will be with us from now until 9 a.m. C.T. Muga, what is today's proverb?
When a king reigns, it is thanks to the people. When a river sings, it is thanks to the stones.
Okay. And that is one proverb, not two.
One,
It's one. Where is it from?
this particular proverb falls in the category of proverbs that are referred to as African proverbs.
Okay. Must be from people who have good rivers.
Not only rivers,
their
but
hood.
it's a proverb about significance versus insignificance. But we'll talk about it later.
Okay. So we'll talk about it later. Now, on the 12th of November, 5 years from COP21, 10 years after the Sustainable Development Goals, the world's 450 public development banks will be gathering for the first time at the Finance in Common Summit. This summit is emerging from a single conviction that the crisis provoked by the COVID-19 pandemic marks a turning point. They need to redouble efforts to lay the foundations for a fairer, more resilient future where short-term urgency can be reconciled with long-term objectives. The Finance in Common Summit is also born from an intuition that the public development banks have a decisive role to play in resolving the sustainable development finance equation. So who are public development banks? That's the question. 450 of them across the globe and in all the continents, actually. And they now be meeting to discuss what is it that we can do. Public finance, public development banks are these ones that are not commercial. They are the ones that have the support of government, of multilateralism, that basically are looking at how they can help governments in running, in financing many projects, especially development projects, right? So this conference that will be happening in a couple of days' time, that brings all of them together. They are sitting back to look at, okay, COVID, all right. Governments across the globe have really been, hit by COVID. The role of government post COVID-19 is gonna increase in terms of everybody's expectation of what the government should be doing is gonna increase. So what is it that the governments then would need in terms of support on meeting this increased role on this? And for having this conversation, to join us, we're going to have Michael Awori. Michael is the COO of the Trade and Development Bank, and Maud Frangi, she is the project officer, French Development Agency. And this event is going to be taking place in Paris, France. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Let's
morning.
start with you, Michael. Just explain to us, what are these public development banks, just so that we can get this clear once and for all.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. So public development banks, I guess the way to think of them is they sort of are at the intersection of the private sector and the public sector, right? Similar to TDB and AFD, we are founded and set up by the national governments, right? And so we pursue the development agenda of the national governments, but we are also, particularly in the case of TDB, very commercial in nature, right? And so we are a way to channel sort of not only national objectives, but sort of national, international policy, right, into action as well. And so, we do this through funding various projects within our member states that bring about, again, that sort of concrete development on the ground, again, sort of turn that policy objectives into concrete outcomes, if you will.
Sure. So I guess then another question then for you, Michael, and Asmod as well. Who then is coming into Paris in the next couple of days, and then to say what plans are in place for this summit and what are you hoping to roll out moving forward? So who does this involve? I mean, we're looking at 450 of these organizations. Why them? Who? And then what happens at the summit?
Sure. So as Eric mentioned it, so it's 450 of the world's public development banks sort of gathering in one place to discuss, their role, their ambitions, opportunities and challenges. So it's quite unique, quite groundbreaking, right? In that sense. And these public development banks, the combined work of all of these institutions represents about 10% of the total annual investment made by all public and private sector investors globally, right? Over $2 trillion. So the significant financial resources that these institutions represent, right? And so through this summit, by having all of these actors together, the goal is that we can be mobilized to act in a coordinated manner to guide the changing direction of global finance. So we have a view that global finance needs an acceleration towards climate and SDGs and sort of addressing these in a little bit more of a concerted effort, as well as in a more coordinated effort. Again, public development banks are a significant part of the solution to achieve this. So, in terms of your question, in terms of the outputs of the summit, so one of the outputs will be a common statement, right? So this statement will lay out the commitments that these institutions are all signing up to. Commitment, for example, to increase our involvement in specified themes such as gender or climate or agriculture or SMEs, right? And so these themes and these commitments will then together serve as a sort of roadmap for driving a more sustainable recovery. So,
Mr. Waters, if I may ask, these banks, if I were to speak generally, who owns them and then who also funds them?
Right. So when I say that we are at the intersection of public sector and private sector, that kind of gets to your question, right? So in case of TDB, for example, we are owned by the 22 member states that set us up. So Kenya, joining you from Kenya. So Kenya is a founding member of TDB, right? So the African governments that set up the institution are the primary shareholders of the bank. We also then have institutional investors. So you think of your pension funds and your insurance companies and your sort of impact investors that are also investors and shareholders of the bank, right? So we bring together the public sector and the private sector, and then as a wholesale bank. So what that means is we don't have branches, we don't cut deposits. We fund ourselves from the capital that those shareholders inject into the bank, as well as raising money ourselves. So we borrow, and AFD is one of our key partners in this. They provide us with several facilities, but we also borrow internationally. And we take all of that capital and blend it, and that's how we deliver our lending operations.
Maud, if I may direct this question to you. What do you hope to achieve through this conference, and what is it that will be different from what AFD has been doing all along?
As Michael just said, we are waiting for a joint declaration of all PDBs with a very clear roadmap on how to achieve together the sustainable development goals. So what would be different, I think, is to have this common voice on how to reach there. And also the Financing Commons Summit will not only gather public development banks, but as well the financial community at large. And the idea is really to raise awareness about the need to have funding flowing towards investments related to climate, to social sectors, to power. So yes, what we expect once again is to have more awareness and cooperation.
So you're having an entire conference so that you can arrive at a consensus and arrive at perhaps a greater awareness. But what about the tangible results? What are these results that you expect beyond awareness and beyond consensus building? What do you hope to do? After all, you are development banks.
So the tangible effects of actions of development banks can be felt in terms of infrastructures delivered and service delivered at large. So from this conference, the idea is to increase the commitment to have, yes, more infrastructures, yes, more trainings and capacity building in different regions of the world, and to decrease vulnerability towards climate change.
Okay, can I ask then, I guess this is for both of you, Michael and Maud as well. What have we seen these development banks and institutions having done in the past? That would help us then to understand what moving forward this summit then would be able to produce. What kind of projects, if Kenyans, Ugandans, Tanzanians were looking at this today and said, oh, okay, I have seen this as a result of what this bank had been able to do, provision of water, boost of electricity here and there. What has been the bane of these projects previously?
Right. No, that's a good question, and development outcomes, which ultimately I think is the heart of your question, right? The outcomes from our interventions and on our financing. That's something that we as an institution track, right? It's part of our DNA. We're 35 years old, and we have a track record of doing this, and we measure those outcomes beyond simply the dollar value, if you will, of money dispersed. So it could be jobs created or sustained, number of SMEs supported, households directly or indirectly supported. So you touched on power, right? That's a great area to start on. That's an area that we look at closely. So we have a very strong focus on renewable energy sources, which is already about 2/3 of our long-term portfolio. So we finance solar, hydro, wind plants, to name a few, and collectively, we delivered over 1 gigawatt of clean, renewable power to national grids across our region, right? So that translates into more reliable and affordable cost of power. Okay. So we all know Africa, has ambitions to sort of grow our manufacturing base and industrialization, and one of the key components of that, right, is affordable, reliable power, right? And so we're directly addressing that by support to that sector. In our trade finance business, for example, so that's our short-term lending. We support various companies in the agricultural sector, right? Particularly exports of agricultural products. So in our Southern Africa region, for example, we disperse hundreds of millions of dollars annually to a number of companies, and those companies and those funds directly affect hundreds of thousands of smallholder farmers, right? We're talking farmers who on average have maybe an acre, right? But they're now able to save, invest, and send their children to school, diversify their crops, and ultimately we're delivering high impact in creating sustainable outcomes, right, through these interventions.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, for example, the partnership between TDB and AFD started in 2017 with a credit line dedicated to infrastructures without targeting specific sectors. And so this line of credit, for instance, financed some hydropower installation in Tanzania, so that contributed to increase the access to clean energy. It also contributed to finance the purchase of specialized equipment for a polyclinic in Madagascar, or the development of telecommunication applications in Zimbabwe. So it can be very, very various sectors targeted. And now the partnership is more focused on climate infrastructures once again. So this one will probably finance more renewable energies, solutions in agriculture, or even in transport or energy efficiency technologies in industry.
So in the meeting that you'll be having in Paris in a couple of days' time that brings in all these public development banks, you'd expect that then whatever deliberations you come up with, they'd require support or buy-in from your shareholders. And here the main shareholders would be the governments that you'll be seeking to support. How do you go back now to your shareholders and get their consensus or their buy-in into whatever deliberations you come out with? Michael.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I would say, generally sort of the national interests, right, and sort of the policy goals are often complementary, right?
Yeah.
We talked about power. We talk about infrastructure, right? All of our countries have a significant infrastructure gap. So we need to build more roads, right? More ports, more long-term infrastructure, right? And so that's obviously an outcome that the wider development sector supports, right? But the policy angle that comes in is how can we do that most effectively, efficiently, taking into account the impact on the environment, right? So the national interest and the development goals, right, will be very complementary in that sense, right? But then we come in to actually help make that reality, to actually help those projects come off the ground, right? And so it's both with the funding, right, that AFD and TDB do directly, but it's also through the softer engagement around those policy aspects. So we can help the government, for example, think about how can they draft policies, right, to make the environment accommodative and attractive for investors to come in. Because at the end of the day, governments have stretched budgets, right? So as much as there's a big infrastructure gap, a government cannot fill that gap themselves. We need private sector to come in. So we can engage with government around creating the environment that's attractive for the public sector to come in and help deliver those projects. And it could be things, again, along the lines of the environmental policy, right? So that's top of mind globally, right? And so having a policy where environmental standards are they're concrete, they're well defined, and investors can know that sort of what to expect is sort of one area where, again, we can be engaging with government on a softer side, separate from the actual funding of a project, but ultimately it helps to advance the government's goals and development goals that we all as development banks have in common.
But then the assumption here would be that when you all meet together from across the globe, you'll be having something that is common to discuss. Yes, there's the impact of COVID-19 in the entire world, but each part of the world has different needs coming out of this COVID-19. So I'm just wondering, so when you bring in all the PDBs from across the globe, I'm looking at the number of PDBs that we have and from every continent, how then do we bring about the conversation that is Africa-centric or South America-centric or Asia-centric, so that the PDBs in Africa can now have a conversation around, even those in East Africa can have a conversation around what they can do to support governments in Eastern and Southern Africa, like yours, TDB.
Right. Well, it's having so many actors, all right, and we should mention that beyond the development banks, I think as Maud mentioned, public sector is there, so heads of state will be there, academia will be there, philanthropic organizations will be there, right? So it's very, very wide constituencies that will be part of the bigger conversation. But as as TDB sort of representing Eastern and Southern Africa, right, we can be presenting the views of Africa, right? And so each geographical regions, to a certain extent, is represented in that, and obviously, Africa's goals and Africa's needs are something that is top of mind for us, right? We're an African institution. This is our home. We understand what the requirements are on the ground, right? And we can convey that and have that be part of the conversation so that the outcomes, again, are relevant for us.
When you consider your funding, is it premised on any governance issues? Is it premised on any understanding of the corruption indices that are published by organizations like NGO Transparency International, or do you simply fund based on the needs and nothing else?
No. So we take governance very seriously. So as a management team of the institution, we have a board of directors that we report to, right? And that board of directors represents all of our shareholders. So both the public sector shareholders as well as the private sector shareholders. So as I mentioned, we have institutional investors, insurance funds, pension funds, etc. That are part of our shareholder base, and then our ultimate governing body is our board of governors. And as I mentioned at the outset as well, we are a development institution, but we also commercially oriented, right? And so as we operate at that intersection, yes, as a development bank, we national development is why we exist, right? And so we address market failures. We take risks that commercial banks aren't willing to take, right? But we do that with both the long-term sustainability in mind, but also with the commercial lens that we operate with, right? So the project has to make commercial sense. The project has to deliver commercial returns, right? So we're not, sort of a purely policy sort of arm of any government to purely deliver a policy project, right? We ensure that the projects again deliver commercial returns, as well as address the environmental and social governance aspects. And in all of the procurement, particularly in the private sector, but also on the public sector, all right, we follow very closely the procurement laws of each country and ensure that we don't fund a project where there's questions around how a tender was awarded or around how a concession was awarded, right? We take that very seriously because ourselves, again, being a wholesale bank, we have to go raise money internationally, right? And so we have to be able to have that confidence and sort of project that confidence so that we can bring all that global capital to Africa to deliver these projects.
Okay, one last question for you, Maud. And so coming out of Paris, when this is all said and done, then on a global scale, or, on the stage, regionally even, do we then expect to see more activity to be able to help out, especially for those areas that were hardest hit by COVID?
Of course, that's one of the goals, and there are some actions that have to be taken in the short run, and actually public development banks have really shown their crucial counter-cyclical role in the past months, and they will have to keep showing that in the coming ones to exit the crisis and support the sectors that are being highly impacted, and even the private sector in general, as well as addressing the development agendas of the different governments. And in the long run, of course, the pandemic has revealed how vulnerable we can be in terms of health infrastructures and global shocks in general, so climate change as well. Of course, so yes, the idea is really to increase commitments and activities depending on the specificities of each country.
Thank you very much. Maud Frangi is the project officer, the French Development Agency, AFD, the Kenya office, and Michael Awori, who is the COO for the Trade and Development Bank, TDB. Asanteni sana for speaking to us. This is in the run-up to the conference that's going to be happening, the summit, Finance in Common Summit, happening on the 12th of November 2020 in Paris. That brings in together 450 public development banks from across the globe. We wish you all the best in your deliberations, and thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time for us to take a break as well on KTN Home, on Spice FM, and online. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. We'll be back with more. First of all, let's take a look at what's happening weather-wise from major towns in the country and other parts of the world, and then also see what's happening on the roads across the country. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
COVID-19 imeimpact lives za wase wengi sana. Watu wame lose jobs, kutoka mama mboga, business owner next door, neighbor amefungiwa hao na landlord. Pesa imekuwa mteja, haipatikani hata ya kuweka chakula kwenye meza. Ili kujenga jirani, unaweza toa suu moja, 100 bob only, na hii inaweza badilisha maisha ya Wakenya wengi sana. Na usisahau kuungana na sisi for the Jenga Jirani Charity Festival 7th and 8th of November on KTN Home, na pia itakuwa online on www.jengajirani.org.
All right, still experiencing light rains throughout most of Nairobi at 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 24, and likely those rains will continue throughout today. In Nakuru, it's also rain showers at 15. We'll see highs of 21 and likely to continue with wet conditions throughout Monday. It's also raining in Nyeri at 15. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 14. Taking a look into Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 14 degrees, highs of 22, and rain expected later in the afternoon with lows of 13. Okay, into Kisumu, 19 degrees, rain showers and light rain expected throughout most of today, highs of 26 and lows of 18. In Kakamega, mostly cloudy conditions at 19, going to highs of 25 and lows of 15, mostly cloudy conditions through today. Mombasa, 24 degrees, experiencing rain this morning, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Taking a look then into Malindi, where it's light rain, also at 19, showers expected through most parts of the morning, into mostly cloudy conditions for the rest of the day, with highs of 24 and lows of 16. In Kampala, it's light rain as well, 20 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 19. It's going to be a wet day throughout most of Monday. Dar es Salaam also experiencing rain showers for the moment, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Let's take a look then into Johannesburg, where it's sunny at 18 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 16, and some rain to cool things down later on during the day. In Lagos, mostly clear conditions at 25. Sunny conditions going to last through today with highs of 31 and lows of 25. And we'll finish things off for now in Kinshasa, where it's raining at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24, and the rain expected to last throughout today.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, what does it look like now? Waiyaki Way, the jam has started at the roundabout. There's an operation this morning for mask wearing. Or I guess the operation now is against non-mask wearers. Whichever way you choose to look at it, it's holding up traffic right around Westlands for now. So if you not worn a mask and you're heading in that direction, you might want to wear one now. Okay, the traffic on Thika Road starts now at Garden City. It's moving very slowly as you try to approach the city. At the underpass at Pangani, it's going to slow down a little bit as you get then to the overpass at the Globe Cinema. So that's moving a bit slowly. Mombasa Road is not moving at all. Sorry. The rain is coming down. The traffic is not moving. The expressway construction continues. So Mombasa Road is an absolute mess. If you're headed into the city, this one is going to need some patience this Monday morning. And maybe a song. Maybe Eric can sing for you. We'll have a look at that later, though. Spice of MKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Just in case you get stuck somewhere, you see something we should know about, let us know. Text us as well on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
No, I was just saying, there's traffic and, maybe people needed, a way to be able to get through the morning. So maybe, you could sing and dance, circus, dog and pony show kind of thing, in case you wanted to keep people company. Can be quite dreary when it's raining and there's traffic at the same
Why dog
time.
and pony?
In those days, those were the animals that would present some kind of entertainment. And then later on, it became something in jest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa basi. Wanatoa ngapi?
Why can't you just do things for the sake of development?
But that is development, his own personal
Yeah.
development.
For others, not
I
for
need
yourself.
to develop.
Precisely, his development will also benefit others.
Yep. Development is important.
It is.
Yeah. Remember, we're talking about the public development banks for the last 25 minutes and a conference that's happening. And it brings together all these development banks from around the world. And how many do we have in this region? Quite a number, right? Operating in this region. Brazil, for example, has an entire 21
Just Brazil.
in one country. And if you look at them, where it's governments and other institutional investors that then have put in their money into this, and it's for public interest, can we say that you can directly feel the impact of all these PDBs, for example, in East Africa and in the region? Is there a direct correlation between the number of PDBs that you have and the kind of impact that you has in terms of, government being able to finance? We've seen FDB has done quite a bit in the last couple of years. Any new project and you hear, the African Development Bank has, either guaranteed a project or is putting in money in a project. When it comes to energy, the Lake Turkana wind power project, they were involved and all these kind of projects. But then,
I think the thing is, there's a lot going on, right? But if we're looking at the general public, everybody is hard pressed then to make the connection between these particular organizations and the development that they see. It would be that people just believe, okay, maybe the government is actually getting something done. Whereas we understand that things like PPPs are in place, we don't really know that it is the work of X bank or this other bank that is involved. The assumption is that, okay, something is happening. So I think that the role that these institutions actually play in the general development of certain countries is most times overlooked. Maybe not even overlooked, but in many minds just doesn't exist because nobody really knows or is able to connect the two.
Yep.
Their role is overlooked because people are not aware of their existence, which is why some of the questions we're asking this morning then are really pertinent. Because how then do you know that it is a development partner or development bank who has come in to do this? And to ask yourself then, what are their roles and how then do they make sure that certain things actually play out as we see them? So I do believe that there are very many things that are happening. You don't know who is behind them. The assumption it would be that it's government. But in a lot of cases, it's not.
It's been financed and facilitated by these institutions.
Yeah.
But at what point then do we call the government to task or hold it accountable for the kind of... So we know that the government is a shareholder, for example, in various PDBs. And we know that the government is going to get money from some of these PDBs so that it can finance some projects that it's doing, that have been looked at, that have been, these experts in these banks have sat down, they've reviewed a project, they've seen the viability of the project, they've seen this is a project that can go very well if a government just went and rolled out such a project. But then, the mandarins in government and those people who now start executing and implementing some of these projects, they do things and you start asking yourself, so really, is the government working to the best interest of the people? In terms of the when a project has been rolled out and how the project is then implemented, there are people who just look at it from the money perspective and how they're going to make money out of it.
To be a member of such a club, you also need to pay your dues. So there's a percentage, I think, the government of Kenya pays. There's an amount. Now, I know that the French government pays 0.55% of its GDP towards FD, FD specifically. Now, it then gives you the might to be able to have a say in what happens where, and also gives you the influence, because you have the money, to be able to pull weight in an association that involves other development banks. Now, I believe for us to be such a strong member, the government of Kenya pays its dues. But the moment you mention that, you then have to go back to what we always discuss with regards to development projects. The projects will be outlined, it will be well planned, the implementation will even begin. And therein lies the problem, because you will find that some of those costs have been padded, people have been bribed. In short, there'll be cost overruns, and it's a debt. And so we're not paying for the actual project. we're paying for all these add-ons, and then usually there's a little doubt as to whether the project will be completed as had been envisioned. Because with all these compromises, you anticipate that things may not go as planned. Now, if we look back at our track record with the development, part of the reason why we are sagging under this weight of debts is because the things that were supposed to have done with the money that was borrowed, we know very well was not done as they had been planned. Because had they been, we would have had problems, but not of this magnitude. We would have been repaying, but we would have the money to repay. We would, yes, have the same problem everybody else in the world has, but it would be from a different perspective and platform.
I think that is the crux right there, because you're dealing with development on a large scale. I mean, we heard some of the projects that some of these guys are involved in, infrastructure, when it comes to things like the provision of power, when it comes to infrastructure like roads and networks and things like that. They fulfill their mandate up until where they're supposed to, having the conversation and saying, okay, this kind of money needs to be presented for this. What kind of other support, post-finance support, then is available for these projects to actually see the light of day. The implementation, however, seems to always be the problem. And that's why, you know what, I don't know if it's a crutch, and it's seen that they will continuously be in this cycle where they're dependent upon this development aid in order to succeed or in order to thrive. The thing is that African countries are not the only ones who take development assistance. There are other countries who take development assistance. But we see examples of countries who actually take this assistance and do what they're supposed to do to the letter with this development assistance, and you can see the difference. Why is it always a problem whereby infrastructure that was supposed to have been or come into existence because of this help does not see the light of day? And that's the problem, because you know you can always go back and get some more, and you know that also it's a debt that ought to be paid.
And
it becomes a crutch. Yeah, exactly. It becomes a crutch, and development now is what is on the altar of this particular sacrifice. That's the problem. Development is actually not happening, I would say. Even when you have these institutions come in place and they help, development is not occurring at the rate at which it should, by virtue of the fact that these institutions are in existence.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Or at the intensity with which it was planned. You know, so just like CT was saying, so a project is basically born and planned in a certain way. And when it comes to the implementation of it, that's where the compromises start coming in. If I'm getting a sense that if the people basically knew that this is what is on the table, this is what has been done, going all the way to the bottom and saying, in this particular region, there's this project that's coming up. There's a new solar farm that's being set up, and the government has, sanctioned this kind of project, and it's getting support from this kind of development bank or this kind of financial institution, and this is the amount of money, and this is the expected outcome. Don't just say we expect 10 megawatts to come out of this solar farm that is in 40 acres of land here. Say what quality, say everything else that should be looked into, so that local civil society organizations and local public interest organizations can be looking at and checking the boxes and seeing whether the implementation is per the plan. Now, this makes everybody now become part of government, which is another issue now. People will not want to be doing all that. That is the government's job. Why am I doing the whole job of, checking who's paying me to do that?
Sure, but in terms of information, yeah, I think so. In terms of information and what is being shared for what is really going on, because obviously, look, 400. Just look at this number: 450 institutions. So of course, they have global impact.
Yep.
But going to meet in one place, it's not the entire sum of financial institutions, developed institutions on the globe. There are more. Right? So if we're looking at Brazil that has just 21, you can imagine the number that are available. So my issue is that development, if we just want to look at this region, on the continent, development for the provision that there is for the finances that then should fuel or spur on this development is not moving at the rate at which it should. And I think it's a huge shame. That, okay, let's say that you don't have enough as a government to be able to fund some of these development projects that you have. These institutions then that are available to give a helping hand and even to give after finance support are not being used in the way in which they should be. And I think that if you have an option for a solution and you're not using it, you're hoodwinking your people. You're letting people know that you're not letting people know that we actually have options to do this and get it done. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be in this day and age at this time that so many options are available, and in one country within boundaries that you have people who don't have access to clean drinking water. You have people who don't have access to power. We saw a story in the newspaper the other day that you have roads that are shambles and people can't get food from farm to market.
Yep.
It's ridiculous that you have so many options, yet development is still crawling when it should be running a marathon. It shouldn't be.
You know, if you look at, for instance, AFD, specifically AFD, and what it does, all the sectors that we're talking about, it actually funds development in those sectors. You're talking about the environment, you're talking about health, you're talking about infrastructure. They do. And it's large sums of money. Now, the issue here is that as a development bank, they have a very clear understanding of what they want to do, and they can chalk up very good success rates of what it is that they have done and what they also, again, hope to do. Now, can you imagine a situation, given, for instance, that this country, it's not that we lack water. Imagine if the assistance that is being given was actually channeled in the way that it should. Literally every Kenyan in this country would have water at their disposal.
Yeah.
Literally, not figuratively, not communal wells, they would have it.
Only 47 million of us.
Yes.
Even though a third of our country is arid and semi-arid, but still,
There
is
yes.
capacity for us to get water.
We would. Now, there is something that is very strange. And this is something that it puzzles me, it bothers me. Do the leaders not seem to understand that the power of example they set at the level where money never goes to where it is intended? Do they not see how this cascades down so that at the very lowest level of any administration in our government, you'll find individuals emulating that horrible, terrible example? They don't see it. I was reading today, I think, in The Nation, where in one of our counties, issues that have to do with child welfare, it is understood. You have to bribe. And the amounts aren't small, 50,000 shillings. If you have a case and you want the case to move in your favor so that you can stay with your child, not someone else's, your child. I read that and I said...
Wait.
Yes.
What kind of case is that?
When you have a problem, usually, you go to child welfare, the children's department to have cases. And they also act as arbitrators in some of these cases. Now, if you want them to arbitrate in your favor.
This is now in family dispute?
Family dispute.
Not adoption cases.
No, not adoption. That's what I said, your own child.
Your own child.
Children are involved. And it's a question of who should have the child and who should. If you want the case supported in your favor, 50,000. Yes. I read that and I said, goodness. Now, this Kenyan or these Kenyans work in this department. The import of and the seriousness and the weight of what this department is supposed to do got lost a long time ago. So people's misery now becomes, and you know how sensitive matters of children are, become that is the pot from which you derive this illegal income. Because you know, when it comes to children, human beings will do anything for their children. And I mean literally anything. So money, they look for it. It's the same problem we have with employment. For the longest time, employment in our country has always been bedeviled by that you cannot get a job. That is what is believed, unless you are willing to bribe. When it comes to recruitment of police, when it comes to recruitment of the armed forces, the same thing is leveled and said, this is what is expected. And we read about it. Now, when you read about something, you cannot dismiss and say it is not true. Someone must have experienced it for it to get to that level. And this one, to be honest, we are entrenching this culture so profoundly, deeply into our ethos as a country that we are going to have a generation of children who will consider corruption as a normal way of life.
We already have that generation.
I think it's already there. And I think the point to say that we should be careful, that also was a while ago. It's already there. That people, young people now who are applying, who are going to university, what did we have? I mean, it's a story that came out of the major universities. I want to go and study procurement so that I can get into a government organization so that also I can.
Because that's where the money is.
Because that's where the money is. Isn't it ridiculous that you have a number of people then who want to go into places like that and get that? COVID-19 came into the country. People did not see it as a health scare. People saw it as an opportunity then to eat. The development partners, yet again, gave their money to say, go fight this. Till today, do you know, until today, Kenyans are hard-pressed to find the answers as to where that money went. Development money, yet again. You don't know where that money went. Isn't it something that you should have? For me, CT, you say it bothers you and it concerns you. It blows my mind that billions, we're talking about billions of Kenya shillings, came into the country to be able to help. Until today, audited accounts of where this money went and what it was supposed to do have not been made public. If money is being given by development partners for infrastructure and development of such things, Kenyans don't know. Kenyans don't know. These guys have done their job. They've come and they've partnered and they said we will give. Where does it go? If there's so many and they're going to Paris, all of them, to sit around for crying out loud to discuss what else they can do.
Because that's what they do.
Because that's their job. Can you imagine? And then the development that you can see from one country to the next does not mirror the help and the support that is being made available.
You said city and you're asking, don't our leaders see this? And it goes beyond our leaders. It goes into very many other cadres of public sector workers. It's about integrity in our public service. I think we lost that a long time ago. You get a job somewhere and what gives you pride when you go home in the evening is not that you did your job to the best of your ability that day. It's not that people came and maybe you're a front-facing officer. People came seeking your assistance and you gave it to them. It's how much you made. It's how much you bent the system. It's how much you played corruption in your favor. The issue of integrity in public service, even if we discuss it in BBI and we don't even focus on that conversation, we focus on other conversations, it's a big issue because that's what is leading us to where we are. Look at, and we'll be discussing this maybe later today or in coming days. When you're talking about the election in America, Donald Trump is throwing a fuss. He's going to the courts in the states and then going to the Supreme Court also in the country. Nobody is raising an issue about the officers who are working and counting the ballots.
No.
Or the postal officers. Which postal officers were carrying the... No.
There's no question about
There's no question about that. Because it almost sounds like, it's abominable to even think that somebody could not do their job. It's expected that you're given a job to do what? To open the ballots, count the ballots. That's what somebody's going to do. In this country, we raise questions about such things because we don't even trust our own selves. It's not about Chebukati at the top. It's about the clerk that has been employed. Who's this clerk? Can we trust him?
Who's he affiliated to? Who is she?
Yes. And it's just a polling clerk.
Don't you sometimes think that conversation is actually steered in that direction to divert us from what is actually happening? So you're busy discussing where the chairman of the IEBC comes from, who else is his relative, and you're not focusing on the real issue at hand here. Because the man may very well be good at what he's doing, but then how do you ensure that his work is not interfered with? How do you guarantee this? Is it in the selection? Those processes we keep complaining about, they're never the problem. They're never the problem. Eric, and you're right. Because when these Kenyans get to those positions, it's like they get there with a predetermined agenda as to what to do. And so you'll see confusion, you'll see this, but it's just an agenda that they're following. And it doesn't, and it's like they are put in those positions with a specific agenda.
Brief.
You're told, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to present it. Now, it depends on your ingenuity and the flexibility of your mind and the gymnastics that you can perform to entertain the public as to what your job is.
You know what, City? I honestly believe that it's the other way around. I believe that the people who are taking up these jobs, they're taking up the jobs, many of them take up the job just to serve. But you get there and you're trying to serve, and then there's all this other interference. when it's interference coming and casting doubt about you and your capacity and your integrity and all, then you're the one who's painted as lacking integrity. Yet you were doing the job. If we started focusing today on who's going to be the COO of the Trade and Development Bank, I'm telling you, Michael Awori, will find issues about him. Right now, we don't know him. We don't know what the bank does. But if we started just focusing, just bringing the politics into it, you start finding issues about this person. Yet these institutions have been working and they've been left to work, and
For decades.
they have people who basically just get up and go to work and they do their job and go back home. If we allow all the other cadres of public service to do the same, we'd have things working. Would be able to infuse that integrity. But when you start playing games into, all right, now you have given you that job, so I expect you to do this and the other. And if you don't do it, you're going to lose your job. I've forced you to do it. Then the next thing you do it, and you do it 3 times, and it becomes the normal for you. You also now just get swallowed up into the system.
I don't understand. For me, honestly, I'm at the point whereby maybe it requires a lot of thought, and it then requires, whether on an individual or collective basis, to say, we really now, because we're specifically looking at development of a people, development of a country, to get it to the place where it's basically able to run itself. There are decisions that need to be made. There are conscious resolutions that need to be arrived at to say that this is what we are actually going to do. Can you imagine the norm now is that this person is going to get into government and money is going to be stolen? This person is going to get into government after promises that they may or may not have made, after partnerships that we see that they would or would not have entered into, and we're going to see that this area of the country would have changed. The question you ask yourself is, okay, how soon after they get into government are we going to see money stolen? Or this road that's already dilapidated is going to get worse? That's the norm.
You know, our norm here is not will money be stolen. How much?
It's when. How soon after
when and how much of it?
they get into government?
Are they going to steal everything, or are they just
going to leave a little bit to actually push the country forward?
That seems to be the discussion. But in my mind, we are seeing the full-blown consequences of impunity. Mm-hmm. When all around you it appears that you can do these crazy things and get away with it,
and nobody asks, nobody holds you to account.
Happens, yes.
Even if they ask you, you know how you're going to. You already, by the time you were planning this thing, you already had an exit strategy for how you were going to get rid of any kind of questions coming your way.
Yeah. Before we go to take a break, let's hear from Mahmoud, who's calling in from Mombasa. Mahmoud, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and the rest. My name is Mahmoud, the chairman, founder of Swahili Port Hub.
Karibu, Mahmoud.
Yes, so actually I was listening to your discussion, and it has really been paining me. Mm-hmm. Because when you follow what is happening in the US, you see the confidence that people have on the electoral process. But you'll find a Republican governor, and he's seeing the Democratic candidate is winning, but they put all their efforts in building the trust and not trying to do anything that will undermine the electoral process. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm thinking this is a global world, and you do not see any efforts on our end to try and do the same. So I'm wondering what country are we living for the next generation? Because we have people who can do this.
True.
But I don't know what's wrong with I can't call it politicians, because I think it is a culture that has gotten into all levels of society.
Indeed, it's well ingrained in our society. We still have a window.
Yes, we can. I think we can't give up because it is our country. Most of us do not have a second country to go to.
Yep.
So if we say we give up, then we will be betraying our kids.
True. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mahmoud, and very good points that you raised there.
Okay.
Asante sana. Time for us to take a break. 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. Take a break on KTN Home. This conversation continues. KTN Home will be back right after this break, but we are continuing the conversation on Spice FM. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Mahmoud says that there is still a window. to rectify some of these things?
He is right. There is a window. There is always hope. But
What's the formula?
the formula is to stop looking at problems in other people and ask yourself what you as an individual. It may look like a drop in the ocean, but it's a serious beginning. You. So long as you're willing to give kitu kidogo.
Wewe kwa upande wako binafsi.
Yes. Then don't discuss what other people are doing because you're part and parcel of that particular movement. But if you, as an individual, can put a halt to it so that you say, in my life, this is, I will not do this and I will not be seen to do this and I'm ready to face the consequences, then you begin the change. Because you present an alternate narrative. But if you think that when you bribe 50 bob, it is less of a problem than someone who bribes 50,000, it's the same.
You're one and the same person.
A chicken thief and a bank robber are the same.
All not thief.
They're all thieves. Yes.
I think getting to that point, that's the thing. Look, when things are not going right, it's very easy to point fingers and say that this person is to blame. But then when you look at it in this bin where you've all been put in and you say everybody's trying to get to the next level, whether it be individually or collectively as a government, as a nation, right? And you say, then how is my operating well then going to affect the bigger picture or the grander scheme of things? And it does. If you and I are doing the things that are right when nobody is watching, if everybody decides to get into that state of mind, then it's like they say, it's when boiling water is made up of many bubbles, right? If everybody is doing this thing, then you have an opportunity whereby you actually do see change. It's not waiting for one person. It's not waiting for government to actually do it right. It's like, start it, amongst. So I think that's where the hope lies. That is still, this whole thing is still built up of individuals who can actually make a difference and actually do something as yourself. And then I think it does have a domino effect then.
So it starts with us. Just decide, wake up tomorrow and decide, just get up today and spend your day and decide, I'm going to live with integrity.
Sure, because how do you hold somebody accountable if you yourself can't
part and parcel of it.
Yeah.
And then you think that you're better off so long as you can blame them and you can talk about the amounts. It's not a question of the amount. Dishonesty is just dishonesty. It's not complicated.
Whereas we know that, look, there's fault that lies in those who are not doing their job. That doesn't go without saying. I mean, it goes without saying that, for sure, we must hold people accountable. But then again, on what ground can we stand to hold somebody else up to some bar of morality if you are also not holding ourselves up to that same bar?
But we also need example setters. Just
That's
like you
true.
said, we follow examples. If you begin with looking at people who can then be examples, be the example to somebody else. You're an adult, be an example to your children, be an example to your nephews and nieces, be an example to the people around you. So you basically just decide we are going to use one example to another, and that will become better. The conversations continue right here on the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are on Spice FM, we are on KTN Home, and we are online. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. In the next hour, let's talk about COVID-19. So operations have begun. County governments have taken up the mantle and decided that we are going to enforce the COVID-19 regulations. Pendem si pende. You'll do the right thing. Is that the way to go? Is that not? Keep it right here for that conversation. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice
Okay,
FM.
guys, today the traffic
Kisumu.
on Wayaki Way started as far back as Waroko, headed towards Safaricom. That one has been quite one today. People heading back into the city, and we see that happening this morning. On Mombasa Road, it's actually still continued to be a bumper-to-bumper situation. The train heading towards Donholm, delayed for some reason, about 45 minutes late. So everybody's trying to get into other forms of transport at that area. So that means it'll be a bit messy. Looking on Gong Road, coming off of Langata Road, it's not looking too bad. You should be able to be fine as you get towards the city centre. Now, between Nyayo Stadium roundabout and Westlands on Uhuru Highway. That's where we have a problem today as well. It's moving very, very slowly today. Hopefully it'll open up in a bit, but for now it looks like it's going to be jam-packed for some time. We're right in the middle of traffic hour this Monday morning. It's raining, so things are moving slower than you would expect. Above all, please be careful. Arrive alive, as it's said. Spice FM KE, talk to us on Twitter or text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 8, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room broadcasts every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Spice FM. In Nairobi, it's 94.4, Malindi 97.7, Nyeri is 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, Nakuru and its environs 96.0, 102.5 in Kisumu, Mombasa is 87.9, and we are also online on spicefm.co.ke, and we live stream the show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Spice FM KE are the handles for all those platforms. We're also live on KTN Home until 9 a.m. CT Muga, as we begin this new hour. What is today's proverb?
When a king reigns, it is thanks to the people.
Mm-hmm.
When a river sings, it is thanks to the stones.
When a king reigns, it's thanks to the people. When a river sings, it's thanks to the stones.
Mm-hmm.
Without the stones, no river has a song.
It's like you want to sing.
Yeah, what's that movie? Every penguin has a song.
Penguins of Madagascar.
No.
Happy Feet.
Happy Feet, yes.
Had to be a penguin.
Yeah. So let's talk about COVID-19.
Okay, so over the weekend, we saw quite a number of arrests, right? We at some point on some roads, we saw police vehicles actually being parked in anticipation of people delaying past 10 o'clock. So if we look at different parts of Nairobi, for example, Mombasa Road was one of them, just ahead here. Langata Road was another one. Within the CBD, we had multiple arrests and then people then being released on cash bail the morning after. And then basically, you know, the wagging finger came and we're told, don't do that again because we are here and we're watching and we're not going to allow you to continue flouting the rules. We saw the same happen in Mombasa, led by the governor of Mombasa County, Joho himself, who went with police at that time of night to make sure that people who were still in these establishments of pleasure went home. Now, in this case, home for the night was not your bed. Home for the night was a jail cell until the following morning. Hopefully, what this was intending to do was to send a message home that you should actually be home at 10 o'clock.
So
and
the message
not in
goes
the back.
home, you go to jail.
The message goes home, but you go to jail. Okay?
No. The domicile location of the message is you.
You, in this case,
Wherever
are
you are.
encapsulating
Yes,
home.
So the message gets there.
Okay.
Right? So, but my question is, shouldn't we be actually dealing with the problem as opposed to dealing with the symptoms? And does it really get home, this message? Because what is it? Somebody's going to think, all right, okay, I was in jail for a few hours. I paid the cash bill, but guess what? I'm home. Does it really sink that the reason why all of this was happening is that if we don't do this, if we don't behave in a certain way, COVID-19 could essentially spread? That is not what people are hearing.
So you're saying we're
What
dealing with the symptoms?
Yeah, what people are hearing is, I actually shouldn't have been out past 10 o'clock. COVID be gone. COVID doesn't play here at all. People are hearing, they want me to be home past 10. Or rather, they don't want me to be here at 10 o'clock and beyond. I should actually be else. I should have left the streets. So you come in and all these arrests are taking place. People are paying a cash bill of 5,000, whatever amount the following morning, but then they go back home. How long do you think you're going to be able to carry out this operation in this manner? Another Friday is coming, maybe even today.
Yeah.
People don't even wait until Friday to go into the bars anymore. Is it really, in my opinion, it's not going to help or deter people from misbehaving, quote unquote, because that's what, I mean, the CS told us yesterday that this is what it is. It's absolute misbehavior that I'm seeing Kenyans not taking this thing seriously. But again, you're dealing with the symptoms. You throw people in jail for a couple of hours, they come out the next morning after having paid a cash bail. It doesn't send the message home. It doesn't make them realize that being out without social distancing is actually helping the spread of COVID. Doesn't help.
Do you really think that if the government keeps this up, steps it up, and continues arresting people, that people will not change the way they go about their business?
People will stay home because they don't want to be arrested. People will not stop going to these establishments because they feel that their going is going to curb the spread of COVID.
You know, there is that allowance. We did open up the economy and we did allow people to go out. We did. Now, if arrests mean that it's a deterrent and it's a fear, then it does serve the purpose for which it was intended, in my opinion. Because it stops someone from doing this very thing that they know very well they're not supposed to do.
Which is what? Being out at night? All right, so you're out during the day until 9 p.m. you go back home, and then you're not observing physical distancing and the rest. So,
I carry my 20 buds
are we going
to my
to be
house.
having now police officers coming to see with a tape measure or with
2
a stick
meters
that
apart.
is 2 meters apart and they're just pressing?
What it does, it reduces the frequency. Look, according to the nation, 2,400 people were arrested in the weekend. Okay? Let the number get to 50,000. Okay? Meaning,
Police doesn't have capacity to arrest 50,000 people.
they do.
Where are they going to put them?
It's just a
In the
question of
same jail cell where they're trying to maintain social distance.
I was actually taking this discussion further, and I was going to say, just like we're having field hospitals for COVID, let's have field prisons. So that when you arrest, when you arrest people in large numbers, you know very well the cells can't accommodate all of them. Okay? But ensure that there's a place where you can take these people you've arrested. But by all means, arrest them in large numbers. Not just those who are found outside hours. Those sporadic checks into establishments of that sort are people keeping social distances. Nakuru had a very interesting incident with reference to this. The Star reports that there's a particular establishment in Nakuru. It's called Seb's Nightclub. Not only did the police go to arrest people, but the revelers kept the police embattled for 4 hours.
With what?
Resisting arrest.
So the revelers inside the club and then
Yes,
the police outside.
the police came in and they refused to be arrested. So there was a push and pull and push and pull.
For 4 hours.
Yes, and they even had to throw in tear gas.
Okay.
80 people were arrested, and they say most of them were women. But this is out of a group of 200. The men managed to run away and escape.
Right.
It means they're accustomed to doing these things, so they knew what to do.
Right.
The women were probably still trying to reason, and they were told, utasema mbele. You will say it ahead. And ahead here meant prison.
Prison.
Yes. These are incidences that we're hearing of. What about incidences we haven't heard of? It's not just in Nairobi or Mombasa and Nairobi. No, I'm sure this is happening all over the country. You have to start somewhere. If it means arresting, by all means, arrest.
Now, this is the thing. With the fervor that we saw this happening over the weekend, is it going to be maintained?
Let's assume they maintain it.
If they maintain it like this, again, is the message being passed?
Okay.
Is the message being passed?
It is.
Even amongst themselves.
It is.
But unless it's a dual message here, they're saying we want you actually to be home, and at the same time, we're trying to stop the spread. You shouldn't be out past 10 o'clock.
You know that COVID message they got a long time ago. It's like when alcohol was introduced. Do you think those who consume alcohol in copious amounts do not know the effects of it? They do. Okay. Now you say there are no changes. I saw changes in that there were establishments that specifically ensured if you seem to be staggering or trying to walk on one leg when you had two legs, okay, they would advise you and explain to you and tell you, look, we have taxi drivers, all right? We know them. One of them will drive your car. You couldn't just pay, it's like you're paying for the taxi. One of them will drive your car. The other one will follow you. until you get home, but you are not driving. Okay? Not I heard, I saw. Then the flip back on this one was there'd be people whose job it is to drive around at a certain hour and say, okay, what's up? They're here. Meaning avoid this place. They're here. The fact that people were communicating tells you the message had gone home. They did not want to be arrested. And some were actually taking the precaution of ensuring they were not arrested.
Yeah, because they didn't want to get arrested, not because they saw an importance
So how many
in the
people
stop
can we
of
say,
COVID.
City, if we look at all those statistics, how many people would we be able to say that reduced the amount of alcohol that they take
Because of
in a
alcohol.
day? Because they knew, I need to go home and it's very important for me for my own safety, so I'm not going to be, I don't want to drive while drunk. Or they decided, I'm leaving my car at home, I'm going to take a taxi to the pub and I'll take a taxi back home. How many?
No.
Do we know of a number?
I don't know the statistics, but I can tell you this.
Did you see? Because the other one you saw.
The other, but I saw it. So I'm not
In this other
referring to
one, did
something
you
I saw.
see people say, somebody that you know clearly, this one, ordinarily, he would have driven himself to the pub and back home, heavily intoxicated. But this time, the way I see him behaving, he takes a car.
No. From what I observed, there was very little change. People who own cars want to drink with their cars. Yes, and then they want to drive their cars home.
Back home.
Zigzagging, whatever it is that they're doing, that's what they want to do. Now, there's a point I'm trying to make here. I'm not saying that the arrests will, of necessity, bring about immediate behavior change. I'm saying it'll be a deterrent. It's important to start with a deterrent. That deterrent, one, it'll reduce accidents that we have on our road. That's for sure. It'll not reduce drinking.
That's
not
okay.
at all.
All right.
Okay? But as for COVID, that message of COVID, there is no, you don't hear me discussing it. It got home the first time it was mentioned, so that they didn't understand it. But there are challenges that came about. People were accustomed to conducting their business in a certain way. Remember, even when you are not allowed to buy alcohol, people were drinking in bars.
Yep.
Alcohol would be put in thermos flasks. And people would drink right across the country. I mean, it's not as though they invented thermos flasks. The thermos flasks have been there all along. All that the establishment did was to invest in thermos flasks, and that's what people did. The things that people want to do, they will do. This is really my point here. They will do.
So this deterrent business it's a government that is, first of all, why is it that people have not been behaving the way they've been behaving for a long time, CT? For the longest time possible. Is that what you say? For the longest time. What people have had is this continuous distrust and mistrust of their government. They believe a government behaves a certain way just because it wants to interfere with your life. It's exactly the same thing that it's now the government is entrenching now. When a government starts doing operations and crackdowns, when we are sitting back here and we are asking ourselves, you're seeing a story in the paper that 6 billion shillings worth of PPEs are lying idle at KEMSA, and you know that people are falling sick, and you know that medical workers don't have PPEs, and they're lying idle at KEMSA. Why are they lying idle at KEMSA? Because of corruption allegations at KEMSA. You have seen that there are hospitals that are getting full with just about less than 2,000 people who need hospitalization right now, and our hospitals are getting stressed. We know that there are people who are at home who are on home-based care. Do they get any kind of support? The only thing that they hear is a phone call calling them to ask them, so and they get a call once. Those who are lucky to get calls, right? The follow-up on that, on home-based care, and what you're supposed to do, and the protocols that you need to follow, there's no communication on that at all. There's no support that's being offered to you as a COVID-19 patient in home-based care, or those who are taking care of you. None support at all. There's no support on people who require, for example, information on how to boost your immunity. All this communication is not coming from the government. When you hear the government speak, it's blaming us because we are drinking, and that's why there is COVID-19 increase in the country, and that's why now they're going to deploy police officers and form a new unit. What?
The government narrative is not the only narrative, but is that narrative wrong? We are contributing to it. The government is right.
We are contributing to it.
The government is also contributing to it, but it doesn't remove from the fact that we are contributing to it. We are making decisions that are guaranteeing that the situation that we are in or we're trying to avoid is not avoided.
That's true, City. But the problem here is that the government is making it as if that's the only problem. The only problem is the citizens who are vichwa ngumu. And we are going to unleash the full force of the law to make sure that you guys toe the line.
Look at the picture that was painted in Mombasa, for example, over the weekend. When there was a huge rally that took place in Mombasa, it would have been great if the governor actually said, you know what, this we should not be doing. Come and be going. The same governor was out at night at 10 o'clock telling people, helping police to arrest people. No. The same Mombasa that 2 weeks ago there was a huge rally, huge numbers of people, and then we see Mombasa as the second in the country.
What about a concert that he himself, the governor,
exactly, he himself was at, exactly. So it would have been why in the same breath, and this is what where I'm hearing Eric say, we have it's talking out of two sides of your mouth. Let it be that it is one message that is being hit across board, and then you can tell me that arrests are taking place, then I will applaud and say, absolutely, then please go ahead with it. Mombasa, now, in terms of COVID infections, second to Nairobi. And this surge came around the same time when we're seeing these huge things that were happening. The same Mombasa. Kisii, same thing. Why didn't we have them leading at that point and saying, you know what, we can't have this huge coming together. We can't have it. We can't have these get-togethers.
Could I possibly argue that the governor has seen the error of his ways?
That's okay.
And he wants to set things right.
And that's what he was helping them set things right on Saturday.
Yes.
It is absolutely possible that that's what the governor has done. He basically just woke up one morning and realized, oh my God.
We had a huge concert in Mombasa we shouldn't have.
Oh yeah, I made a mistake. But at the same time, now let me take a position of leadership. Take your position of leadership, but at the same time, can you offer the support that the government should be offering? Can you ensure that you have maximum bed capacity? Can you ensure that your testing capacity has also been improved? Can you ensure that at the same time as you're doing all these things, your healthcare workers are not complaining that they don't have PPEs? Can you ensure that as you're doing all these things, the people know that if I fall sick, if I get symptoms of COVID-19, I don't need to look for 10,000 shillings to go and get tested. I can walk into that facility and I'll get tested.
Now, if you do all those things, if you do those things, yes.
You as government, don't leave me alone. Let me drink.
Now, if you do all those things and you come and arrest people, by all means. If you've done all those things and if you've done all those things and people are still out on the streets misbehaving or doing whatever it is that you're saying is going to contribute to the spread, because you can imagine, here I am, I have done all these things. I had 5 points that I was supposed to do. Make sure there's capacity in hospitals. Make sure that there are PPEs. Make sure that there are masks. Make sure that there's 1, 2, 3. And then I find people still trying to mess up the work that I've been doing, staying outside past 10 o'clock. By all means, arrest them. But here you are on this side, you've the capacity.
No, but with reference to the county of Mombasa, that governor stood out as one of the governors who was actually doing something about COVID. They had bed capacity that other counties could only dream of. And they had equipped those facilities.
Yeah.
It's on record. Even when it came to something like the ferry, they had booths that
and
was...
they had
yes,
centers.
it is not that they have done nothing. And you can't even compare them with counties that have been borrowing beds from schools. You cannot compare them with those counties.
City.
It doesn't allow.
How much is a COVID-19 test today in Mombasa at a public facility?
I have no idea.
How many can you go to? We can ask the people in Mombasa, they'll be calling in at some point. How many can you go to today and get a free COVID-19 test?
Is there free COVID-19 test anywhere in the country?
Let's ask that. Nairobi was offering free COVID-19 tests some weekends back, right? How possible?
How many weekends did they offer? I thought it was just one weekend.
It was one weekend. It was 2 weeks ago on a weekend. Yeah.
Just once. All right. How possible is it for you to then know that this is your COVID-19 status? And once you know that, how do you know where you need to go? Like, what facility can you go to? And what facility is there bed capacity in those facilities? Do we know, for example, in the same county of Mombasa, when it comes to home-based care, how many people are in home-based care and what support are they receiving from the government when they're on home-based care? So we talk about if somebody's in home-based care, they need to get that support. So there's a phone call, there's a follow-up, there's what you need to know. Are they getting all that information? Are people in home-based care, for example, also knowing that I'm doing this for 14 days and I'll go for a test and then my test will turn out negative and then I'll come out. This is the support that I'm receiving. All those are the things that Governor Ali Hassan Joho should, at the same time as I'm not saying that he shouldn't, encourage his police officers to go and ensure that the curfew is being observed and all these other measures are being observed, but at the same time, he has a job to do. If you do those two jobs at the same time, I will accept. But if you appear to come to me to show me that it's because you are out drinking, that's why there's COVID-19 spike in this county, and that's the only thing that will help us stop COVID-19, and that's the only job I ought to do, I turn back. I'm like, no. Government should not be running away from its responsibility. It has a responsibility to enforce. It has also a responsibility to ensure that a lot that needs to be done to fight COVID-19 is also happening. The conversation about PPEs, the conversation about bed capacity, the conversation about hospitals, the conversation about testing capacity, all these conversations should be happening at the same time.
I would only say this being governor must be a difficult job.
Yes,
Because
no.
when this same governor locked down Old Town, hey,
Vitriol, for sure.
hey, there's hardly anything that can be spoken with one's mouth that was not said. They say everything was said to the point where I believe there are people who even cursed him. Now, this was a governor doing his job. Just and saying, look, folks, this is what we need to do. We can fault him for not having done his public participation properly to explain why he was going to do it, but that was the situation.
Yep.
Now, that there were two rallies, well, a concert and a rally, and that many of the infections we are now talking about in Mombasa may have very well have emanated from those two functions is true. But it cannot remove this simple fact that there's a governor who wants to show that he's hands-on in these issues. There are many things that need to be done, and perhaps he need to be advised on how they should be done. And I'm sure he has advisors. But I cannot remove myself from looking at the fact and saying he is trying to lead by example. That I cannot remove. Everything else may be constant, but this is also a constant.
It's true. He's trying to lead by example on both fronts. On the front of stopping COVID and also on the front of helping
Inviting
it to
it.
spread. You can say, yeah, he was, with the, for example, the World Tourism Day concert was, one of the things of trying to bring back the economy of Mombasa back to life. It's okay and all those things. What message did he give there on COVID spread? What message? So today, if people decided to go and congregate at the Kenyatta Beach and decided, well, let's have another concert for this time to bring...
Following the example.
Yeah, since this is part 2.
And we're not
let's
going to
do
be
it.
here past 10 p.m.
Wow.
It's
Then it's
gonna
okay.
happen. Over the weekend, not just Mombasa, in fact, not just looking at Mombasa, over the weekend we've seen many stories coming out of how people have held meetings which are not observing social distancing at all.
Eric, if
Church congregations, other congregations where people are supposed to be 100 and they are 500 people.
Eric,
It's all over the weekend.
Eric,
Now the government is here.
It's not just bars.
Anyway, let's
It's
take a break.
everybody.
Let's take a break. 24 minutes after 8. The conversation this morning is it enough to just launch a crackdown on COVID-19 measures and not do everything else? Are we just dealing with the symptoms instead of dealing with the root cause and the main issue here? 24 minutes after 8, time for us to take a break on KTN Home, on Spice FM and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand-washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatliff and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and Shatliff and True Black and the Standard Group.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatliff and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and Shatliff and True Black and the Standard Group.
The weather
Still
with
continues to
Spice
come down in Nairobi
FM.
in terms of rain at 16. We'll see highs of 24 today. Rain showers in Nyeri at 17, highs of 21. It's going to continue raining in Nyeri as well with highs of 23 and lows of 24 today. Mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 13, highs of 22 and lows of 12. Kisumu at 19 degrees, rain expected throughout most parts of today. 26 to high and lows of 18. Kakamega now is mostly cloudy after getting over some rain this morning. It's likely to come back later with highs of 25 and lows of 15. Night rain in Mombasa at 25. It will continue for most parts of the morning with highs of 28 and lows of 24. Malindi is experiencing rain as well, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Light rains continue in Kampala at 20, highs of 25. And in Dar es Salaam, rain showers now have begun, 25, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Joburg is warming up at 20. Well into the summer months now, highs of 26 and lows of 16, while it's mostly clear in Lagos at 25 and highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's raining in Kinshasa with light rains at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 24.
.5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Yowza. On Mombasa Road, guys, it starts as far back as Mastermind today. Very, very slow. It's not moving. The rain doesn't help either. People have found an entry point, though, behind the SGR. You're going to have to pay for it, though. It's a mini toll that has been set up. And you pay to the army. So, well, I don't know if you can get out of that one. But if you don't, you're going to be stuck in traffic for some time. Still at 8:30 and the jam is still quite bad on Mombasa Road this morning. Thika Road not doing so badly at this point. You can get into the city without too much of a headache. At the underpass at Pangani as you join from Muthaiga Corner, that's where you will see some traffic. But then moving from Survey, it's moving slowly. We're not in a jam situation like we are on Mombasa Road. The eastern and southern bypasses are open and up. You can use those, not getting stuck anywhere for anybody this morning. Okay? However, Uhuru Highway from Nyayo Stadium through to Westlands and also then from Westlands into the CBD is moving very slowly this morning. It's a bumper to bumper situation. A lot of people getting into the city after the weekend. So this is what we expect. The rain exacerbating things, not making it easier either. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127 if you're stuck anywhere or if you find an alternate route.
Spice and everything nice. All right. Okay. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
All right,
done
it's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. This and every morning you have Eric Latif, CT Muga, and Nduoko, who's raising issues about response to COVID-19.
I mean, look, if we look at the response here in the country and in different countries on the continent and indeed around the world, the response came as everybody was getting information on what to do with this. But some of these things, like we say, it's a novel disease. Everybody's still trying to figure out then what to do. There's certain things you do know. There's certain actions you can't take without knowing what all the science is around it. There's certain things you already can do. What I am saying is that if it is behavior change that you're seeking to bring about, this action is not going to do it. What's going to happen is that people are going to be in jail for a couple of hours, a few hours, maybe through the night, work off the hangover, whatever. They'll pay the cash bill in the morning. They will go home. Guess what? You will chase the same people on Friday. You will chase them again on Saturday. People will now make it, City says they will take up scholarship for the next however long the police are going to be very active about this thing. You will chase them again. You will go to the same spot. And that's the funny thing. You will go to the same spot where you arrested them on Mombasa Road. You will go to Langata. I don't know if the governor in Mombasa is going to be going out every Friday, Saturday night to do this activity, but they will still come out because of the thing that you talked about, whether it is that mistrust or distrust, and they'll tell you, okay, you guys are fighting it, that's fantastic. We don't want to get sick, we don't want anybody to get sick, but there's certain freedoms that we feel that, we should be able to enjoy. You said we shouldn't be out, we're going to try. Let's try and make it 11. Even regardless of the fact that it's 10 o'clock. And I'm saying that we're treating the symptoms. I don't think that you're dealing with the issue. Because if it was cutting it off, the person that you arrested on Friday night and had to part with 5,000 shillings in the morning for a cash bill, if that was the way, you should never be able to find them on the street again after 10 o'clock. But guess what? They will be there. They will.
Behavior change cannot possibly take place unless there's an engagement beyond where you contacting or the policeman getting into contact with you to arrest you. No. It goes beyond just simply being told. It's you understanding what is being said and understanding how it benefits you, and then you making a decision. The point at which the decision has been made to comply hasn't been arrived at. It's been heard. Everything has happened. They've heard, they know, but that decision, the decision has been, with all the information we have, we are going to continue doing exactly what we want. But they've received the information. So that tweaking of ensuring that is internalized. Now, this is now where our delightful Kenyan culture comes into being. We, as wonderful Kenyans, as wonderful as we are, we believe that the examples that we shouldn't follow are the examples of others, not our own. Okay? We also believe that any problem, so long as someone else has it, cannot be your problem.
Of course not.
It's always somebody else's problem. And we also believe that anything that can affect someone medically, it always affects other people, not you. So, even when you hear there's COVID, it's other people who get COVID. Haven't you heard people asking the question, do you know of anyone who has gotten COVID? Haven't you heard that question?
Yeah.
Haven't you heard? I remember talking to an individual recently where they were telling me how they'd taken their children to school, and they got information after a week that the deputy headmaster, whom they had been talking to when they took the children to boarding school, was in an ICU. So I asked me, so now, what do I do? I said, you probably need to go and get tested. And if I get tested, I said, well, when you get tested, the process is known. Even you know what you ought to do. He says, yeah, but the deputy is very sick. And now, we continued along this person lamenting about the deputy being very sick. And I listened. Then they said, but so now the children, how safe are the children? I said, why? See, when I was talking to the deputy, the children were also there talking. I said, look, the school knows what to do. And the school will manage this process well. Believe me, it's not the school's intention to see children dying, and within the means possible to them, believe me, they will know what to do. Okay? But as I was listening to all this, I asked the question, you know very well that there's COVID. I said, yeah. I said, but this is an individual who told me when I had mentioned them, said, but do you really know anybody who has COVID? I said, no, I don't. But by the same token, I also don't know of people who have died in in a plane crash. But I also know that planes crash from time to time and people die. Okay? I said, I don't need to see for me to believe. Now, this individual represented to me the minds of very many Kenyans. And it's not, we were not discussing, in my mind, at some point I realized we're not discussing COVID. No. What we're discussing is whether they could possibly suffer from COVID. Not being infected, no. Because they know, this individual knew very well that you can be asymptomatic. They understood this.
Yeah.
So it wasn't COVID that worried them. It was, if I'm infected and I'm in the ICU as the deputy headmaster, first of all, how will I afford it?
Yeah.
This is the question. We didn't mention affording it, but this to me
These
was
are these are the issues.
Yes. And if my child gets sick, I've already spent money taking them to school. Do I have to go and bring them back and then incur another cost? This is really what we're discussing here. But none of it was actually mentioned. So then I asked the question and said, look, I've seen you wearing face masks. When you went to the school, did you wear the face masks? She says, no. I said, why not? This is you're in an environment you're not accustomed to. Should this not have been the place and there were more people where you were wearing a face mask? I said, no one else around me was wearing a face mask. I said, okay, so do you wear a face mask because people are wearing face masks, or do you wear a face mask because you know it is necessary? And of course they said, I know it is necessary. Now, again, I could see the confusion and the debate going on in the mind of this individual I was talking to. Okay? But even as I saw this, what was clear to me, the issue of all the safety measures that had been spoken of had never sunk.
No.
The mask that they wore in Nairobi was for compliance, not for safety.
Yeah.
So that if they come across the police, at least they have a mask. And the mask that this individual was wearing were these masks which are supposed to be disposable. And by the color of that mask had been worn for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, someone else who talked to me about masks and disposal pointed out to me that, these masks we said disposal, it's not true. I said, what do you mean? You can wash it and still wear it. So I had to ask the question, so you wash it? I said, yes. In fact, this is the third time I'm washing it. So I thought,
Wow.
okay. Now, this person had internalized the message and had gotten a mask and was willing to continue wearing it.
So what message do you think then that these arrests that we are seeing over the weekend is passing to people? It has nothing to do with COVID.
No, it hasn't, because that
doesn't.
establishment is not going to close.
Exactly.
That's number one.
People are not seeing that I'm being arrested and then being given cash bill the next morning
No.
so that now the COVID can stop spreading because I was in the bar. No. That's not the message that they're getting. It's something totally different. That, okay, the police are being used to spread a particular agenda. That's it. Or the police, and guess what? The conversation, if a conversation is had properly, between you and the arresting officer, you won't sleep in that jail cell. You'll sleep in your bed after having left the establishment at midnight.
Yep.
Let's
With
just
a
be
proper
honest.
conversation.
Proper conversation. You won't even smell that jail cell. You will sleep in your bed. Meanwhile, the other people that you were drinking with were in the jail cell. It's not the COVID message that's being spread
Even
by
in that
this
jail
thing.
cell, there's no physical distancing
At
or social
all.
distancing at all.
Have
There's
you
no
ever
requirement for you to wear a
seen
mask.
have you ever seen the jail cells we have in this country?
Yes, surely. Let's go to the phone line. Solomon is calling in from Mombasa. Good morning, Solomon.
Good morning.
How are you
morning.
today?
We are good. Just our governor is becoming like a police officer, and it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there is two sides in this story. One, there is nothing goes wrong, it starts wrong. So first of all, don't blame the people who are in the bar past 10.
Okay.
First of all, blame the bar owner.
Uh-huh.
You see, as a bar, if you close the bar by 9, I believe everyone will leave.
Yeah.
So if you make people to continue enjoying at your bar past 10, that means first of all the mistake lies at the bar first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
As opposed to maybe you meet people sitting outside their house, eating mira and having a liquor. That's totally different.
Uh-huh.
So, and I've had friends from Nairobi coming for holiday in Mombasa, and they have noticed a lot of change between the two cities. And they'll say Nairobi bars are usually not closed as opposed to Mombasa.
Okay.
Mombasa maybe a few, not more than 3, that are still open. Yeah, as compared to, and they'll tell you, I go to a bar by around 8:30, the DJ switches off the music.
Yeah.
And the waiters continue selling liquor as compared to Nairobi. Now it depends on the county government, on their regulation, how fast they can able to fast track it.
So in your view then, Solomon, what you're saying is that the enforcers should be going for the bar owners. Ensure there's compliance from that point.
Exactly. Even hotels, everywhere. If you go to Java, for example, the spacing is okay. If you go to certain bars, you find the spacing is okay. But the bottom lies with the owners of these joints.
The establishments. All right,
Yeah.
Solomon. Let's hear from Albert in Kitengela. Good morning, Albert.
Good morning, too.
Good morning.
Good morning, too.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Albert.
Good morning, too.
Okay.
All right, Albert, what do you think? Is the crackdown, ongoing crackdown, okay by you?
Crackdown is not okay. Mbona niseme hivi,
Uh-huh.
polisi wametoa mandate ya kushika watu. Sijakataa. Lakini sasa hii mandate hata ukuje unishike. Kama sijaweka kwa akili yangu corona iko ama haiko, hakuna kitu utanisaidia. Kitu inasaidia kama wewe mwenyewe umedecide hii corona iko, acha nivae mask ya kuvaa, itakuwa vizuri. Lakini sasa saa hii population mingi inavaa mask juu ya nini?
Sababu ya polisi.
Population mingi inavaa mask juu ya kuogopa polisi. Si juu ya safety.
Si juu ya corona.
So
Albert, then how do we get people to internalize that message, to buy in the message and do things because they want to do it, not because of the police?
Right.
So it depends from the above. Some leaders tuseme some leaders wameenda mahali matanga. Kuna ile tuseme tuseme kaa jana Musalia Mudavadi alikuwa sijui church wapi. From there atakuwa na summit ya kuongea juu ya story ya BBI. From there watu watakuja wajae. Tuseme watu
kwa viongozi.
Viongozi watakuja wajae
tuamini.
Asante.
Thank you, Albert. Let's hear from Kemboy in Baringo. Good morning, Kemboy.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am fine. Habari zenu hapo studio?
Hatujambo.
Sasa waja mimi niongelee swala la curfew na swala la walinda usalama kunyanyasa wa Kenya. Mimi si naipinga kabisa hii swala la COVID-19 na kukusiwa kuvaa mask. Ikiwa mtu serikali imeanza kuingilia biashara ya watu, wanaanza kuharibu, wanaingia kwa paa alafu wanaharibu vyombo, sijui kama vyombo wanafaa mask ama aje. Sisi tumekatakika kabisa na hiyo mambo. Ukiwa Mkenya amekaa sana, ameweka biashara yake vizuri, alafu unaingia huku usiku moja unatawanyisha watu, alafu unaifunja maklasi kule. Hiyo picha haileti kitu mzuri sana. Mimi ningeomba inspector polisi ya Mutiambaye waongeleshe vijana wake maaskari ambao wanaendesha hizo mambo. Kama mimi nimekuwa victim hapa Kapeto, najua serikali ikishaingia mahali wanaharibu kila kitu. Hawezi kuconsider walikuwa wanatafuta wenye wafae mask. Wanaenda huko wanafunja kila kitu. Hiyo si kuona rais akisema ukiingia kwa paa upate watu wamekunywa, uanze kuifunja maklasi na kufunja machupa. Hiyo mimi sikusikia rais. Sijui mtu ambaye ataweza kutuambia mahali rais alisema hivyo. Sasa mimi siungi mkono kabisa hii swala la askari kupika wa Kenya. Hawajafaa mask ama kuteuka tatu. Wacha kila Mkenya asichunge na
aishi kivyake. Asante sana Kemboy. Timothy Inamali, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
I'm good, sir.
What do you think of the curfew and the enforcement rules?
First of all, you see you guys, this whole thing about corona, curfew and police brutality, they are really disturbing. Kwa sababu kwanza wanasema kuna corona hao watu, and the same people they go ahead wanakula pesa zenye zimedonatiwa kutoka China za kutusaidia sisi kama wa Kenya. So this thing I just wear mask for purposes of compliance to avoid kushikwa na polisi.
Hauamini kuna corona, Timothy?
I totally don't believe in that.
Kabisa.
I totally don't believe. Reason being, what happened with the KEMSA scandal? All of a sudden, pesa inasemekana imeliwa, then all of a sudden, tena the same people wananyamaza. It's like no money was eaten and we are just trying to kufunga macho atuoni kenye kinaendelea. So what I would like to advise our government, let them really open the economy and stop this kutuchezea akili.
All right, Timothy.
So everything should just return to the way it was and where it should be done. But I think we should also be careful, Timothy. I think I just have to put that out there that COVID is, in terms of a disease and how it's affecting people, is a reality. People are actually getting sick. People are dying. That it's not that that we can say because of their actions, it means that it doesn't exist.
Even if it exists in Kenya, not the way they are trying to put it. It is not as serious as we have seen it in the other countries.
Tumekusikia. I think what you can do is try and seek that more information for yourself. Maybe visit the local hospital in Amali and ask the doctors there. Ask whether there are patients who've been admitted with COVID-19. Ask whether there are people who've tested positive with COVID-19. Ujijulie wewe mwenyewe. Sasa usiambiwe.
I'll try, but fine. It's okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Timothy. Anthony in Mombasa, how are you?
I'm very fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Long time.
Kabisa.
Nilikuwa out of airwaves kidogo.
Welcome back.
But now I'm back.
Karibu.
Sasa. I've lost a friend through COVID. And I'm sure. Na alikuwa ametoka hata yeye mwenyewe alikuwa amelose another friend, ametoka Bario, he came back. Na akagojeka within 2 weeks he was gone. So I know COVID is there. But where the government went wrong, when they politicized this thing, inakuwa wao they can go for mikutano, they do what they want. They are preaching water, yet they are drinking wine. That is where it goes wrong. Unapata watu wanavunjika moyo, like the last caller. It's desperation. Mtu anaona pesa zinaibiwa, zinaenda. They are playing games around on us. Yes, COVID is there, but they are not serious about fighting it themselves. Why should I care? Your desperation, giving up.
What should the government do then, Anthony? What should the government do? How can the government bring the people on board and see that everybody is working with the government in fighting COVID?
Lead by example. Their meetings wazifanye vile zinafaa kukua. Tumeona maharusi walikuwa juzi, meetings walikuwa juzi, they went ahead, the no COVID rules were observed. Tumeona barriers wanaenda, no COVID rules were observed. Let them first of all lead by example. Na hii kitu ambayo ya hii pesa iliibiwa inauma watu wengi sana. Many Kenyans wanaumwa sana na hiyo pesa. Serikali sifikiria hata kama walisema wana investigate ama wanatuchezea game. We are not blind, we can see. Na it's very bitter on a lot of people to see people making billions. Mtu anaambia ukapimwe, sai we are supposed kuwa tunapimwa free of charge, lakini unaambia upimwe unaenda kulipa pesa. Imagine somebody looking for a job, hana job kabisa, akienda kutafuta job anaambia paka uje na barua ya COVID. Hiyo barua ya COVID anaenda kulipa. He doesn't have money. How does that Kenyan feel?
True.
Akiangalia on the other side, vitu zilipokuja zikuwa donated za kupima watu free, ziliibiwa na zikaenda, we know it. That desperation is what is going to affect us more.
Asante. Thank you very much, Anthony.
They are bitter.
Asante sana. Time for us to take another break and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. Thank you very much for being with us from 7 a.m. coming now to 10 minutes to 9. Join us again tomorrow morning on KTN Home, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The conversations continue on Spice FM. Nairobi is 94.4, Mombasa is 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri is 90.9 and Malindi 97.7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Anthony has said it. Basically, you get into a certain point where people are living their life and then they're seeing the government telling them something and living a completely different life in terms of government officials. Yeah, we saw meetings, even a wedding over the weekend, and the photos that came out of that wedding, for instance, attended by the deputy president, issue of social distancing and all those things, out the window. And then at the same time, you see police officers who are coming to arrest people because they have been out at night. Remember, even the first time when the issue of curfew came in, people were asking, so COVID spreads in the bars at night.
Only.
you know, trying to explain to the people that, you know, it's because of how people behave when they get.
That message isn't going to get home for the simple reason, as you correctly put it earlier on, you are more likely to believe someone you trust than someone you do not trust.
Yep.
If you don't trust someone, then it follows logically that even the things they say you will not trust, even if they're true. Because what you associate that person with mistrust. So the utterances fall in the same category.
And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter how true it is.
Let's
even
hear
if there's
from John
evidence
in
staring at
Nyandarua.
you.
John, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you guys?
We're fine, thank you. How is Henny in Nyandarua?
Henny in Nyandarua is fine. It is raining now. So we are busy in the field.
Good.
Exactly.
COVID-19. First of all, John, before you even give your input, you are told us at some point that hospital beds had been taken from your local facility to be taken to Nyandarua because Mutahi Kagwe was coming. Well, they brought back the beds.
Exactly. But they have not yet brought the bed back. Not yet.
Oh.
I think the beds are still in Okalao.
John, on a serious note, really?
Yeah, it's true. They not yet come back.
How many beds are we talking about?
I can't say the exact. I can't give you the exact number.
But this was a local maternity facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. Now let's talk about curfew and enforcement.
Exactly. Now, in my view, it should not take the police or even the highest office of the land.
John, we have an issue with your line. Let's see if John can call you back. John, please call John. See if we can get a better line of John. 0719-012-600. That's a line that we're using. 0719-012-600. What is it that you think of in terms of the enforcement measures being rolled out by the government? This is curfew. Police have even come up with a new unit. It's called the Special COVID Enforcement Unit. Right? COVID-19 Enforcement Unit. And Hilary Mutiambai, the Inspector General of Police, has formed this unit to work in support of the county authorities as they enforce the measures. If you're not wearing a face mask, if you're not observing social distance, if you are out after
10 p.m.
This is what's supposed to happen to you. But let's hear from Ephraim in Embu. Good morning, Ephraim.
How are you? How are you, everybody there?
We are fine, thank you, Ephraim.
Yeah, I've missed you so much for several days. I've not been able to hear from you.
Hey.
What about your weekend, eh?
Okay.
I have an issue to talk once. There was a guy who was there talking about the summit that will be in France.
Yes.
And he was talking about the banks and such like things. And then, City, I think he's the one who asked one important question. Aliuliza, who owns those banks?
Yes.
And the answer he was quite evasive. The truth of the matter is that banks, wherever they may be found, they are owned by just a few individuals. That is the truth. For example, in the Kenyan situation where we are, all the banks which are in Kenya are basically owned and controlled by the Central Bank of Kenya.
All right.
And for people who may not even know, the Central Bank of Kenya does not even belong to Kenya itself. It's a private bank.
How so? Commercial banks have shareholders. The central bank is only a regulator and does not hold shares in any bank. The conversation we were having earlier was about public development banks. And public development banks are different from commercial banks in the sense that public development banks are then owned by public entities. For example, the bank that we were talking about, the Trade and Development Bank, it is owned by membership from these countries, COMESA, the EAC, and the SADC countries. There are two non-regional members, that is Belarus and China, and institutional investors, the shareholders. These include the African Development Bank, the Africa Reinsurance Corporation, the Arab Bank for Economic Development. So those are the shareholders of that particular public development bank. That is different from a commercial bank.
Let me tell you something. You have to do your homework very well and also very thoroughly. Coming to the issue of COVID,
Yes.
There's a conversation that shall never end. Mambo ya curfew, where we are at the present, you cannot be able to force people to do things that they don't want. The reason is because the moment you start using the police force to enforce some behavior, then you are turning the country into a police state. And for your information, Kina City and Kina Eric and my lady there, you can be guaranteed that the laws that you are following at this time, as long as there is a curfew, are the martial laws. Believe it or not.
Asante
The reason
sana,
is
friend.
because
Let's hear from Parasha because we're coming to the top of the hour. Paras Shah in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Latif?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. My contribution regarding the curfews and COVID is that the media should be more proactive in showing the journeys of COVID patients, like how they've been doing in the Western world. I mean, showing the pain and the separation from the family. All the turmoil that the patient goes through. I think that will make people wake up to the seriousness of this disease.
So we humanize the story.
Exactly. And to do it on a regular basis so that everyone has a insight into this.
Okay.
You know, because people are thinking that this is not in my house, it is somewhere else. Yeah, so you need to bring it to their attention.
Very good challenge and very well taken, Paras. Asante sana for that contribution.
Thank you.
And indeed, it's true, actually. We started telling more and more stories of so-and-so telling their story. I got COVID. I got hospitalized. Although it's covered regularly in all the, publications. And even today on The Nation, one of the former Nation editors has written his own story where he's now at the KU Teaching and Referral Hospital, how he had gone out, how he got tested, how the situation deteriorated. He had to be taken into a health facility because of that. So these stories are there. Maybe we just need to increase the number of the stories and tell a lot more. Those in home-based care, those in hospital, so everybody can just see
what it is.
Yeah. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, still a mess on Mombasa Road today as we're trying to get into the city. Those who left about 2.5 hours ago, 3 hours ago, getting to their destinations, and those who are still stuck, it's going to be some time. It's still slippery in some parts. Thika Road getting to the CBD also, that looks fine, a lot better than it was before. Westlands is still slow. Uhuru Highway then from the stadium through into the CBD and then out towards Westlands, moving very slowly also at this point. We'll see a little bit of traffic coming off of Langata Road as you get to the Taj Mall. You can then go towards Bagathi Way, that's not too bad, or then towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout, but then again, yes, you end up on Uhuru Highway. If you're already there, that's what lies ahead. Aerodrome Road, though, behind the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, take you a lot quicker than Huru Highway itself. All right. Apart from that, that's what we see. Jogger Road a bit slow as you get to the stadium roundabout, heading into the CBD or then going towards industrial area. So there's traffic pockets around the city, but not too bad as it was an hour ago. If you get stuck somewhere, do let us know. We could offer an alternative, or maybe you could share one that we could share with other people. Right? Spice of MKE. That's on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
2.5
the
minutes
only
after
way
9.
to
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, beginning a new hour. CT Muga.
When a king reigns, it is thanks to the people. When a river sings, it is thanks to the stones.
What's that Bible verse that talks about if you don't sing, the stones will sing?
Yeah. Even if you don't praise God, the stones will rise up to praise Him along those lines.
Then that's good.
I tried, Abby.
No,
Okay, give us.
I haven't come across that particular one. But then
the one you know is
God helps those who help themselves.
No, this one actually exists. I'll find it for you.
that verse does exist.
It does.
Yeah, even if you
Well,
don't
it
praise
exists.
Him.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that that particular verse that I've quoted doesn't exist in the Bible, as much as the one you've just mentioned. So let the stones sing then.
Yeah, Luke 19:4. I tell
you go.
if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. I tell you, if these were silent, the very stones would cry out in praise and worship.
There you go.
There's something like that.
Stones. My reference was the river.
Got it.
It's the interaction with the stones that brought about the song.
I was just helping Eric.
No, just what came to mind is singing and then stones mentioned. And then
worship, and then you were there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I remembered my Bible. So let's talk about business and setting your business and getting your business online and getting your business a lot of visibility because you have taken your business online where many people are. 2.5 million people who are basically just, not 12.5 million people who are online on a daily basis, just going to find information. And increasingly, many people are now doing their shopping online. Even if they don't finish the process online, at some point, they'll either do their research online. They'll be thinking, well, just like the Google expert was telling us, you'll have the need that will be a trigger, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to do your research, and then you'll go online to find out whether the best service providers or product providers, compare the different products of the different service providers, look at what other people are saying about this particular one that you see, and then you make your decision on which one you want to go with, and you find them, and either you take the conversation offline or you complete the entire transaction online. This is happening a lot. We've even heard from somebody who had started a business before COVID-19, and with COVID-19, they have been able to continue and grow their business because they are online, because they're able to interact with their potential customers online. Rosemary Momanyo-Pio is the SME lead for East Africa. She's been with us for the last couple of weeks when we're talking about how to get your business online. She's been telling us about these tools that are available courtesy of Google. Mm-hmm. When you go to Google and you find, you're able, for example, to put up your business profile under Google My Business. You put up your business profile and people can come and see. Now, today, we decided we're going to have a lot more of interaction, of recap of what she has taught us so far, and then we see any questions that may come from the audience. Rosemary, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you this morning?
I am as good as you. You sound very well.
Thank you. Good morning, Doom. Good morning, City.
Good morning, Rosemary.
Super.
You had a lovely weekend?
I did. Got some rest. Enjoyed the sunshine and the rain. It was good.
Combination of the two.
Exactly.
Now, back to the conversation. You have taken us through Google My Business. Just do a recap again of the tools that are available, the opportunities that are there when someone takes their business online.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Eric. So yeah, simple. Any SME today, any business owner, if you own a business, if you're doing any buying or selling of products or services online, it's important to come online. And it's imperative that you are found by customers who are looking for you. And so definitely move away from having just a retail offline to having an online presence. And the simple way to do so is by getting a business profile, which allows you to get found by customers on Google Search and Google Maps. And if you don't have a website, we also provide a complimentary one-page website called a business site that allows you to have even more information available to the customers looking for you. And these tools are free and do not cost a cent, and they'll give you instant visibility. And how to get a business profile are very simple. Go to google.africa118.co.ke. Either request a call back or call them directly. You'll find the number on that website. And within 24 hours, you'll receive a phone call back by our partner who will walk you through the process of getting your business online. They'll verify you, give you the profile to then own, and then you can then do your own updates and posts later on.
What if I wanted to just do it by myself? I mean, without having to go through Africa 118. Is it possible for me to do that, or do I require some certain skill to be able to create my profile?
So you can create your profile, but it will need to be verified by our partner.
Okay.
So you can still go ahead and build your own profile, and then the point upon you need to click verify, you'll need to verify it with our partner. You can then call them. They'll ask you a few questions to verify that your profile is accurate and is complete, and then you'll be able then to claim it.
What does verify mean?
Yeah, verify means that in this case, we are confirming that indeed, in this example, Eric does own this profile, and he is the legal owner and entity owner of this particular business profile.
Okay. So, Rosemary, I mean, one question. So I choose to go this way and get onto Google Africa 118, right? I decide to start this site, this page of mine. How long would it take for this process of verification, getting the page up and running, and then get people to start to see who I am? From the point whereby I log in and I say I want to get this done, how long does it take?
So verification is instant, Ndu. It's an instant step. They just ask you a few questions. And then for your page to then show up on Google Search or Google Maps can take anywhere from 24 hours to 72 hours max.
Okay. So you're saying let's say in about 3 days, by the time I've done all of this, that's when people can start to know about my business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, how much, or rather, you talked about this, we've talked about this before, it being a complimentary page, it is free. Is it free forever?
It's free forever. All these tools are free forever. So the one-pager website is free, the profile is free. There's no cost at all for any of those two products.
Okay. And how much content? Last week we talked about, some of the pictures that you can upload and things like that. It being a one-pager website, how much content can I put up? Or must I at some point delete some content, replace it with some more, or can I just keep adding?
You can keep adding. The key is to try and drive engagement. That way you can be visible and be found when people are looking for whether it's your photos or your products. So as much as possible, if you can be able to engage daily, please do so. Weekly if you can. But the key here is you can be able to add as much content as you want. There is no limit. You can add posts, you can add pictures, you can incorporate if you're having any offers. There is no limit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to encourage people now to call in and ask Rosemary any question that you have. Or if you have any question that you'd like to post online, Spice of MKE on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, you can post your question there, and then Rosemary will be able to respond in the next about 10 minutes. 0719-012-600. Any business question that you have regarding Google My Business, how you can take advantage of this Google platform and all the tools that have been offered, please call in now. 0719-012-600. Rosemary is here and she's ready to answer all your questions. Somebody was asking last week, when you keep talking about free, and I'm glad that Ndu asked, is it free forever? And you said now this is free forever. So what's in it then for Google? I mean, why are you doing this?
Yeah, so that's a very good point and a good question, Eric. So our mission is to organize the world's information and to make it universally accessible to everyone. So now more than ever that we're in this phase post-COVID or during COVID, however you want to look at it, it's important that we ensure that SMEs who currently are like the underbelly get a chance to be found by customers looking for them. That is our mission. So we care about helping small, medium, micro enterprises grow. We care about having them get found by their businesses. So it's in our gift to ensure that we empower them with the tools they require to come online and get found. The more that are able to then come online, the more we're able to be helpful to customers who are looking for products and services. So for us, it's part of our mission to help and organize the world's information, and that includes incorporating SMEs and helping them show up and get found by customers looking for them.
I seem to have missed something here, Rosemary. From what you're saying, are you saying that Google has become a charitable organization?
No. No. Yes, we do have a non-profit arm. It's called google.org. That is our foundation, if you will, that offers grants and support to people who are marginalized. But Google itself is a for-profit organization. And so part of our tools them are really to enable SMEs and in this case businesses to come online. But at the end of the day, we also provide Google Ads, which help SMEs create for themselves even more awareness. So we will talk more about our Google Ads platform. We just recently will be announcing very soon the launch of an incentive program for SMEs in Kenya, where they'll be able to build their own ads campaign and get support, and Google will be able to double the investment on their first campaign. But ultimately, we are a for-profit. We make money, and right now we're talking about tools that are free to SMEs.
Are there individuals or organizations that advertise through Google and actually pay Google to use their platform for advertising?
Yes, they are.
And what
in
sort
fact,
of
that's actually our bread and
organizations
butter. Yeah, both small as well as medium, even micro, and also large. So they use our platform called Google Ads, and it enables them to create ads. So let's say you're going to do a search for smartphone near me, and you see the results coming up, and you'll see one that says ads, and you'll see an ad there for Samsung or for Nokia or for Techno, etc. Those are what we call Google Ads. And in that case, a business owner can be able to place those ads on Google to be able to create for themselves more awareness. And by doing so, we're able to get some revenue from those ad networks.
Okay, so a question here from Martha, and Martha asks, Rosemary, is that how can you test the success of my business on Google and without? So maybe I can help her out to frame that question a little better. She's saying that have you been able to measure for those businesses, for example, that would not have gotten on Google, for example, and those then who would have, what kind of measure of success have you been able to see from those who've gotten on this platform?
Yeah, a very good question from Martha and Dendo. So I can use the example that we had from Wangare. Wangare used to have a physical presence, a physical store that should sell organic soap in Nairobi before COVID happened. And at that point, she said she'd be getting maybe on average about maybe 100 phone calls in a given week, for example, or visits, 100 visits to her presence. But then when she was able to then come online, she was able to grow by over 100%. And when things shut down during COVID in March up until now, she's been able to sustain that growth and even hire people to help her grow because she was growing at a pace she didn't expect. Even after closing her store in Nairobi and moving to Murang'a and Kenol, she was still able to grow by 100% and be able to even create employment for people around Kenol, Murang'a. So I can use her words to say that by being online, she was able to thrive and was able to grow by over 100% just by having an online presence.
Okay.
Another question that comes in is, can I delete that profile if I decide to close that down the business?
Yes, you can. You have an option to edit the information on the dashboard for the business profile. So if for whatever reason you want to either change the name of your business, or you change a physical contact, or you've moved, or you've closed shop, you can be able to make those edits. You can update or you can delete.
So I can delete the entire profile?
You can.
All right. Let's go to the phone line. Sami is calling in from Magarini. Sami, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to hear from you, Sami. Very well, thank you. How is Magarini?
Magarini is just fine.
All right. You've got a question for Rosemary?
Yes, please. I've got a question. I'd like to ask the lady about, for example, I have a website of WordPress or maybe Bluehost, and I would like maybe to have it launched on Google. Is it possible for me to do that?
A website for what again, Sami?
Yeah, I mean, I already have a website with WordPress.
Okay.
So I would like to have it actually launched on Google. So is it possible for me to do it?
All right. Rosemary.
Sami, absolutely, yes, it is possible. So what I encourage you to do is it's important to have a website, and that's fantastic. But over and above that, I would encourage you to also create a Google My Business profile that will then show up when people are searching for you, and you can link your website to your profile. So people type, what industry are you in, Sami? What do you sell on your website?
Yes, I actually selling books, about books.
It's about
Okay,
books.
great. Great. So if I'm looking for books and I'm in your neighborhood or close by or in the county that you're in, I can look for people selling books and I'll see your profile showing up. I click on your profile, it'll be the first result that shows up, and I can then link directly to your website from the profile. And then you can tell from your dashboard how many people came to your website through your profile. You'll be able to then now know what keywords they use to search for you, Sami. And then if you're able to do any posts or engagement, you could use those keywords to drive even more engagement for yourself. So you'll have some very good data that you can then use to improve your online presence.
I think we need to communicate more.
Asante sana. Yes,
Yes.
indeed, it should communicate more, and that's exactly what we are doing. We've partnered with Google so we can have all this information. Rosemary, as someone was asking this, so if I have a website and then I create a Google My Business profile, when someone goes to search, there is the possibility of two results coming up. One of them is the profile result, and then the other one is the website itself.
Actually, just one shows up, to be honest, that ranks higher, which is your business profile.
Okay.
And then from there, we can then link to your website.
Okay. All right. So another one is, can you have two businesses or more on, so that having different pages on Google My Business? Because you would have the same information in terms of address and phone number, but the two businesses offer two different services.
It's possible. So in that case, let's just say one business you're selling books like Sami, and then the other one you're selling shoes. So in that case, you'll have the same content in terms of how to reach to you, but you'll be in different business sectors. So we try to ensure that we avoid duplicates on the profile. That way, if you're the same contact, same business category, then we'll only keep one. But if you're selling books on one hand and selling shoes on the other hand, you can have the same two business profiles showing up, because what would be different there would be the business sector or the business industry.
Okay.
Is there anything that is not possible?
City.
Yes?
Yes, there are things that are not possible. So, for example,
like?
if you're trying to sell guns or things that are horrible, those of course will not allow.
Oh, human trafficking.
Oh, human trafficking.
We buy and
Or
sell
human
humans.
trafficking. Yes. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much, Rosemary, for joining us today. Join us again tomorrow. And what will you teach us tomorrow as we keep receiving more and more questions?
Yeah, so I will allow for, again, more questions, but I'd like to walk us through the Google Grow 2.0 website and walk you through how the platform works and what other tools are available there. So we'll do a quick overview of the 2.0 Grow Hub, and then I'll walk you through a few of those wonderful, good-to-use tools for an SME.
Asante sana. Rosemary Momanyo Pio is the Google SME lead for East Africa. Talk to you again tomorrow, Rosemary.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And you can find all this information that we talk about every morning with Rosemary. Just go to our YouTube channel, Spice FM KE, and you will find under the topic Grow Your Business with Google. You'll find all the episodes for every day that we speak with Rosemary. So you can just review, go back, and you'll be able to learn a lot more. Even where she's been projecting, stuff on screen and taking us through dashboard, you can find that on YouTube. Spice FM KE is our YouTube channel. And then you just type Grow Your Business with Google and you'll find them there. It's 21 minutes after 9. Let's now look at the weather and then continue the conversations. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
COVID-19 imeimpact lives za wasee wengi sana. Watu wame lose jobs kutoka mama mboga, business owner next door, neighbor amefungiwa hao na landlord. Pesa imekuwa mteja, haipatikani hata ya kuweka chakula kwenye meza. Ili kujenga jirani, unaweza toa suu moja, 100 bob only, na hii inaweza badilisha maisha ya Wakenya wengi sana. Na usisahau kuungana na sisi for the Jenga Jirani Charity Festival 7th and 8th of November on KTN Home, na pia itakuwa online on www.jengajirani.org. See you then, ili tujenge jirani and show some love.
Tonight on the Great Kenyan Bake Off.
Nayo, hapa na hapa.
It's the first of 2 dessert weeks, and Heat 1 are about to face an interesting twist in the technical that will really test their taste buds.
It's going to be fun.
Don't miss the fun as the bakers put their best construction skills on display. Instincts. To create a very colorful showstopper.
I'm so tired.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Okay,
You're
so
listening
good
to
parts of the
Spice
city at
F.
16. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16 in Nairobi today. In Nakuru, 18 degrees. Rain showers also continue. Highs of 21 and lows of 14. Rain showers in Nyeri as well, with highs of 23 and lows of 13. It's mostly cloudy in Eldoret at 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 13. The rain continues to come down in Kisumu at 24. The high will be 26 today and lows of 18. Kakamega is partly sunny at 24. Highs of 25 and lows of 15. Light rain coming down in Mombasa at 25. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 24, as it's raining in Malindi. 24 will be the high and lows of 16. Looking out of Kenya then into Kampala, it's light rain at 21. Highs of 25 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam, rain showers coming down at 25, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is sunny at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 16. Looking into Lagos, it's clear at 25, the high will be 31 today. And the rain comes down in Kinshasa at 24 degrees, highs of 32 and lows of 23. Beijing at 16, it's a warm afternoon in Beijing. As the sun dips, we'll see lows of 2 today, but it's going to be out for some time. Clear conditions in Paris at 10, highs of 16 and lows of 9. And London is clear at 12 degrees, highs of 16 and lows of 11. And finally, for now, it's early Monday morning in New York. It's 14 degrees and clear skies all through. The highs will be 22 and lows of 12.
Spice and everything nice, everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings done right. 5 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. This and every morning, you have CT Muga in the house, Nduoko in the room, and Eric Latif on the chair.
Okay. Okay, Chair, carry on.
Kabisa, sindio. Haya. Now, we have seen what has happened in America, what continues to happen in America. The situation is unfolding. Donald Trump is not yet calling Joe Biden to concede. He says he wants to challenge this. He's going to the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, to challenge this. He's put together his legal team, They say that they are putting together their documents and they'll be going to court to this. The reports from several media houses like CNN, as you would expect, would say that Melania Trump and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, are advising Trump to accept the election loss. Trump's eldest sons, that's the adult sons, Eric and Donald Jr., have reportedly advised him to concede and just let go. Others around him are doing the same. So opinion is divided on whether, he should just concede and let go. Others are saying, go ahead and challenge this. It's also being reported that Trump's campaign is planning a messaging blitz to fuel its argument that the president's second term is being stolen from him through corrupt vote counts in battleground states. 3 sources familiar with the matter have told CNN. One of the ways that it plans to do that is presenting obituaries of people that the campaign will claim voted in the election and considering having campaign-style rallies to amplify the message, according to 2 other sources. So this is all happening. While that is happening, Trump is still the president. Nobody is saying, let's go and get Trump out of there by fire, by force. Joe Biden has already come out to thank his supporters and saying, I am already working on what we want to do in the next 4 years. What a lot of it is saying is reversing the losses that had been made in those 4 years, the losses to democracy, the losses to people's rights and liberties, the losses, and just saying, I'm going to be a different president. And all that is happening. Nobody has gone and told Biden, you're not leaving this house, you're not being elected. Nobody has gone and told Donald Trump that we want you to get out of here. Well, there are people who are massing around the White House and they are, celebrating the Biden victory, and they are posting a lot of messages and graffiti on the wall that had been boarded around the White House, and they're putting all the photos there. It's time to get out, you've lost and all. But everybody is looking at now the next place is the Supreme Court. At the same time, they're looking at the places where the vote counting is happening. Those places where the vote counting is happening, yes, there are people who are massing around the areas, but nobody has gotten in. Nobody has thrown a stone inside. Nobody has said this person is actually a Trump person or this person is a Biden person, and therefore we cannot continue to allow that vote counting to continue because this person is compromised from the very beginning. Look at their name. Look at where they come from. They come from Trump's backyard or such other kind of stuff. So when you look at all this, and even in previous elections, the one thing that stands out is that there's a system, and you've talked about this very many times here, that they have a system that works. This is how elections are going to be conducted. The election is not being conducted by one huge electoral body. It's conducted by smaller electoral bodies across the states, and those ones are coming up with their results. And if you want to challenge the result of that, you go to court. And then the court will decide if you want to challenge any part of the process. Should we have this mail-in ballots opened before voting day, or should the mail-in ballots be opened after the voting day? Should we start by counting the ballots of the people that have come to cast on the day of the election, or should we wait until we finish? All those matters have been canvassed, and they've been canvassed in court, and the judges have delivered their verdict, and that is what has carried the day. At no point have I seen anyone mentioning the name of any senior electoral official. No. Yes, we are talking about secretaries of state and what they're doing, and we are seeing electoral officials being interviewed, and they're saying this is how far we are going. We expect that we are going to be working overnight for the next 72 hours, and we shall finish counting all the votes. Questions about the integrity of the individuals, the personal integrity of the individuals, does not arise. The integrity of the system as a whole does not arise. The possibility that it could have been interfered with is what is arising, is what has been brought about by the Trump campaign. But that is also being canvassed in court. And I sit back and I see these are big lessons that we can learn as a country. Getting to that point where you go, you vote, and then you go back home and you say, all right, let's wait for the results. And the people who are counting those ballots, those are the same people who you did not have a problem when you went to look for your name and they showed you your name on the register and you signed and you gave them your ID and they gave you the ballot papers, the 6 of them, and they told you those are the booths. You didn't have a problem. Why do you have a problem at the counting stage? Why is it that we have problems at certain stages of the electoral process in Kenya? Is it a lack of trust in the system? Is it because we don't trust the system? Or is it because we do not want to trust the system, or we don't want to manipulate the system ourselves and then claiming that the system has been manipulated by others. What I'm saying this morning is that if we get to a point, and this is my pet project, if we get to a point where we make IEBC completely independent, we shall have moved very many steps forward in protecting our democracy.
Some years ago, well, let me not say some years ago, as though it happened once, it didn't happen again. Periodically, there are polls that are conducted in this country to determine which of our many institutions are the most corrupt.
Yep.
What, again, is not stated is then which, of course, by implication, is most trusted. And the list is clear. Now, the trust or the lack of trust that people demonstrate or indicate for our institutions mirrors very, very directly on the trust or mistrust that people have in those who are in authority. Because the people who lead these institutions, by and large, tend to be determined by those who are in power, politically speaking. So there are direct reflection. Now, our courts recently held their own survey to determine which of their courts was most efficient. The court in Meru, the High Court in Meru, took the cup, as in it was indicated that they were, the court in this country that dealt with their cases and dealt with them efficiently and didn't have cases piling up. So it isn't as though we are not informed about the institution. And then there's personal experiences that people have. For a long time, if you wanted to get a passport, it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. It changed, and you could get a passport without knowing anyone. It went even further. They would tell you to collect your passport on a specific day, and you could get it. Why do I mention it? Because it came from a position where you were never sure you could get it. The process was not clear. To one way, it was clear, and you knew. Now, there are very many public institutions in this country that one can rely on, and one knows that if this is what they say, this is what you will get. But unfortunately, all this confidence that is built, all this confidence and trust which exists, is often eroded by other institutions within government who do the complete opposite, because the news we get from them are the things you don't really want to hear. The things you're hoping would have been dealt with.
Why can others get it right and then others don't? Because if you go back to the example that Eric is premising all of this on today, the United States, all 51 of those states, right? Everyone is responsible for conducting their own quote-unquote election, right? They're counting the tallying.
They manage the national election
at state level. And there's no question that, okay, you're sitting in Georgia thinking, well, we don't know if Pennsylvania is going to get it right, or we don't know if somebody's compromised in California. No. Everybody is waiting for the results to come out, and that's what the nation is going to accept. It never crops into somebody's mind that somebody is going to play around with results, or they're going to be stuffed ballots somewhere, or that there's going to be somebody who just decided that they're not going to show up that day for tallying, and they can't find them. They were last seen in a town near you. You see, it never crosses anybody's mind that is going to happen. So even now that there are these allegations of some kind of fraud or some kind of foul play, nobody's jittered. Nobody's shaking or quaking or coming out and defending a position or saying that, actually, you know what, everything. Nobody's saying that. What has been the one message that has come out from tallying centers across the country? Every vote will be counted. It's like they rehearsed it before, because that is the position that they know. So how come they can get it right? And the same human beings with some same thinking capacity,
the same fallible or infallible qualities that other human beings have.
Yes. Why can't on the other side of why is it not possible to get it right? The individuals on the other side also have partisan interests. They do.
Biases,
they have biases like we do. Why is it that they have
corruption also exists?
Corruption exists in the United States. It does. How they deal with it, totally different story. However, it exists. So why are they able to get it right? That the system is so strong that it doesn't matter. It could be somebody. It could be Indu today in this seat, Eric in the same seat tomorrow, but he will carry out the process the way it is supposed to be carried out, regardless. Why?
You see,
Because these systems are run by individuals. They're not run on their own.
It's not that the system doesn't have problems. It does.
Mm.
And there have been complaints. For instance, there have been complaints about their courts and how they are biased towards people of color.
Yeah.
There have been those complaints. But by and large, there's trust. If you look at trust as a commodity or confidence as a commodity and give it a value, you could argue that they are drawing from the reserves. When you balance these odds, and what is in your favor is that over the longest period of time, the system have been shown to work.
Yep.
That is accumulating credit.
Yes, over time.
Over time. So even when there's an issue, you can draw from that positive credit that you have to show and say, look, you don't even need to say, people know, look, the record speaks for itself.
Yeah, the record speaks
for itself.
But you know what? This is all credit also to the leadership. The leadership has made sure that over time, the message that they send is, we are fighting here, but we have no issue with this body. We are fighting here, but we trust that what they're doing is right. They're doing the right thing.
Well, we allow them to do their job.
And we allow them to do their job. If we have an issue, we shall go and take them to court, and the court shall investigate what we are raising about their issue and the process that has been. That's why there are petitions even in the states. And the petition is not because I'm thinking that so-and-so went and killed so-and-so. It's also, I'm thinking that so-and-so could have manipulated the system. And the court is allowed to investigate that and find and come up with its verdict and its findings. Same thing happens in this country. We have election petitions. After every election, there will be a petition.
I think there's still some
There
in
will
court
be
even now.
petitions that go to court, and they take a while. And there's now with the new constitution, there's a definite number of months, period after which all this should be dealt with, and this is very good. So we have already worked on building confidence in the system, but the narrative that we have is still pointing fingers at that. And that's why we sit back here and we think that our IEBC does not have people of integrity, just like the American system does have people of integrity. And I would say absolutely not. The people who work in IEBC, it's highly likely. The clerks, the returning officers, those who work in the counties, those who work at presiding officers, they are people of integrity, and they do their job the way the job is supposed to be done. But there's a way in which the message is framed that they don't have integrity when it suits the people who want to frame that message that way. When petitions go to court, very few times do you hear the court ruling, even when it rules in favor of the petitioner, and it says that we find that there was serious malpractice on the part of the officer of the IEBC. There's issues that are raised about the system and the way the system was managed. For example, in the case the other day of Gatundu North MP Wanjiku Kibe, and whether the IEBC should have cleared her before she had resigned as MCA or not. You see, that is not about the issue of integrity of the particular presiding officer or returning officer. It's a system issue. How many times do we see of all the petitions that go to court, the judge pointing out and saying this particular officer, how they did this, they were corrupt? We don't see many times. It's all about how the system was done, how the process was carried out, and that's an issue.
You know, before you even get to the IEBC, ask yourself, the Monenchi in this country, at what point do they actually interact with the electoral system? Usually it's at the party elections. When these parties, when they used to have elections, that's the point at which they would interact. And even within those parties, and our parties being regional and being tribal, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what would then happen is that the introduction of favoritism, of bias, is first seen at that level. When you have a situation where people believe they voted for one person, and then the person who is declared winner is someone else. So now when it comes to the national level, especially during the period when we had a one-party system, examples galore of, we even had a queuing system when you queued behind the person you're voting for. And there'd be queues that take turns. When the results are announced, the person who had the very short queue is declared winner.
Yep.
Okay? That's what I said, examples galore. Now, all these things simply erode the confidence over a long period of time. And I'm saying what we now have is the net result of that confidence that has been eroded over a very long period of time.
Okay, I agree. But I'm also saying that what we currently have is an attempt by political leaders, certain political leaders and players at several levels, are trying to keep us back in that position. Yet they're the same people who will go and say, let us rebuild the IEBC. Let us, tweak how our electoral system is done. Let us, what's the word I'm looking for? Revamp the electoral system. But after doing all those things, for example, look at the IEBC as set out in the Constitution presently. This is an institution that should have a lot of independence. This is an institution that then does not have all those issues of trust because, for example, we dealt with transfer of ballots. Counting is done at the polling center. That did away with a lot of malpractice. Then there's the issue of who is present when counting is done. Let everybody who's involved, all the agents of all the political parties, be allowed to be present when that is done. All this is done presently, visibly and openly for everybody to see. So at what point then do we start still maintaining that there is an erosion of confidence instead of working on building the confidence with this institution? Look at it this way. We're going to have a by-election in Magarini in coming days. We've had many by-elections since 2017. How many times do you hear people complaining about the officers involved? In by-elections, they happen, a winner is declared, we are happy. In other elections, all the other city elections, they happen, a winner is declared, someone goes to court, they challenge it, they win, they lose, we are happy. But then we still have this conversation about, we don't trust IEBC, we don't trust IEBC. That's why I missed the point. We trust IEBC on one hand to come and even manage our political parties' nomination processes. We trust IEBC to run elections of the Law Society of Kenya and all the others, but we cannot trust IEBC to run a national election. I am lost.
But the problem isn't a national election. The problem is the presidential election. Because whenever you have, whether it is senators, whether it is MPs, members of parliament, when there's a problem, you petition, you go to court. There's no big hoo-ha about it. It's understood. And in many cases, when people lose, the vast majority, they accept.
They accept and move on.
If you look at just the number of petitions we have vis-a-vis the number of people who actually stood for election, it's a small number who petition. Whether they are senators, it's the presidential election where this problem arises perennially.
Because, of course, I think understanding, because number one, it's a center of power. And there are those who are very interested in being close to the center of power. You align yourself with that. The notion has been for years that once you do that, you're set for life. Whether you're a senator, whether you're a governor, you've aligned yourself with the center of power. So to be able to manipulate the body, which essentially has a perceived control over the result of this particular election. If you can manipulate that body, what kind of power then don't you have? And if you ask me, that's what I see. That to ask that there would be this revamping of the IEBC, that to ask that it behaves in a certain way, that we should have quasi-control of the IEBC essentially means that you can control the result. Which if anything to me, it's fraudulent in all shapes and forms, because you're basically saying that we're going to put a body there which is supposedly independent. However, we can tweak it every now and then to be able to get things to move in our favor. How else does it look?
You see, where the problem arises is this. Just as you build confidence over a period of time, unfortunately, the erosion doesn't take that same period of time. It's shorter. The erosion is almost instant. And it's instant in that people will forget all the good that has been done. Believe me, they'll forget it immediately. And all they will know is that something wrong has happened. Now, where perhaps the IEBC gets the blame, and probably rightfully so, if we're to consider blame being rightful, is not in the process of but in the relaying of results, because it is them who relay results. If you have a situation where the competition is as tight as we have with the presidential elections, sides have been taken, and people will not see good in the other side, even if it exists. So all you require is a narrative that is already slanted in one direction, and positions will be taken. Now, those positions don't move. They actually don't move.
So the problem is the positions, and there's those who are taking positions. It's not the IEBC. That is my point. My point is, if those positions just kept quiet and kept off, the IEBC is doing exactly. The IEBC is transmitting results from a polling center to county and determining who is the governor.
It's doing its
job.
The
IEBC is transmitting results from a polling center to county and determining who's a senator, who's a woman rep. It's the same way the same method it's using to transmit the result from a polling center to county to determine how many votes this presidential candidate has received in this county. And the same ones are going to the national level. So if we have confidence in all these others, in a ward rep level, MP, senator, woman rep, governor, why is it that we have a problem with this other one?
Because those, at the end of the day, given the history, again, history comes into this, with our presidency, even with the constitution and the change in the powers of the presidency is still seen as all-powerful.
Yes, it is. And it doesn't therefore mean that the IEBC has made a mistake.
No.
It means that the politicians who are fighting for presidency are pushing this narrative so that they show that they have been robbed of their victory.
You see,
not necessarily that they have been robbed of their victory. It is just pushing. The verdict of the Supreme Court in 2017 was questioning just the process.
And who controls the process?
And it was a process issue. It was not.
Who controls the process?
It was the IEBC. And I said, process, that's what people go to the petition for all the time. It was a process issue. Did that process issue say that now we have found that these people lacked integrity and all that?
But the process doesn't move on its own. This is why individuals get blamed, because they are assumed, and rightfully so, that they should be in charge of that process.
They are in charge of the process.
Yes.
And
if something goes wrong with the process, you can blame the process, but you'll also blame the people who are in charge of the process. That's how it works.
Let's take a break, though, and look at traffic, and then we continue the conversation. 13 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. What is this deep mistrust that is there with the IEBC? Why is it that then we have IEBC that runs all the other seats and they're fine, and then one seat is not fine? Is it the problem with the IEBC? Is it a problem with the contestants?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, looking much better in most parts of the city, folks. We still have dregs of early morning traffic on Mombasa Road, moving slowly as you get then towards General Motors, but then after that you should be all right. Move slowly then around where the expressway is being constructed. Coming off of Thika Road into the CBD, that looks good. Not much of a problem then as you approach the Globes overpass. And then at Forest Road, also looks good as you try to get into the city, right? Not much of a problem there. It's going to slow down a little bit for you around Langata Road, Timor there, around the roundabout as you're heading in towards Bagadi Way or then towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Apart from that, it seems like the Monday madness is essentially over, except for a few spots here and there. Through the day, let us know if you get stuck. Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
600. What I'm saying is we should just leave IEBC alone and develop trust, build and cultivate trust in the institution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and it will do its work.
Sure,
it'll work for us. It'll serve us.
When you're asking for such a thing, though, it's. I mean, if you're coming from the place whereby there's been such a deficit of trust and there seems to be inherent rot in the minds of people, whether it was at the IEBC itself, because then again, you can't take away the possibility that could there have been some bad eggs within the IEBC because of all of this, people who then were compromised. So getting to the place where now you're going to be seen to be working from a pristine representation of the electoral body is going to take time for people to shift from that mentality.
Yeah, and it takes leadership, and that's why
somebody's got to take it
leaders
by the reins and say, look, this thing we are going to allow these people do their jobs.
That's why I keep
Do your
throwing
job.
that at the leaders and saying this whole thing of saying Chebukati must go or IEBC, we must control IEBC, who from the IEBC. That should not be a conversation. Conversation should be we have an IEBC, it's working. And if they don't do their job, we'll take them to court. They'll be found guilty or they'll be found culpable, and then we'll go through the process. And there's a clearly laid out process. Why come up with all these procedures if you're not going to allow the procedures to do the job, if you're still going to come up and be the procedure? Let's hear from Ed Gitonga, calling in from Nyeri. Good morning, Ed.
Morning, guys.
How are you?
Now, let me tell you something. The problem is not with IEBC. And the problem will not be with whatever electoral board that is going to come up after IEBC. The problem is with leadership itself. Because I can tell you this for a fact. For example, let me give you an example. Trump has a problem with the electoral process in their country, right?
Yep.
But he also has a problem in the electoral votes that are in the counties or states that he's losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is the problem with the voter system or is the problem with him?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing, okay? If you cannot concede defeat, for example, with the same process that has declared, that could have declared you a winner and you could have said, yeah, it's good, well, that means the problem is with you, not the process. And I also can tell you something, okay? There is also another way of looking at it, huh? And here it is. Maybe they also complain because maybe they know that even the body itself is not as clean as they claim. Maybe they themselves, they know that, okay, if this is not clean, it's got some holes here and there. And now these holes that I knew of, I thought they would favor me. Now they're not favoring me. So let me just say the whole thing is that.
But Ed, why would, if we're using the example of President Trump, why would he have a problem? I mean, he is within his rights to complain. He's within his rights to take the matter to court. He has he done anything that goes against their laws? He hasn't. He feels it was fraudulent. He said so. He's taken the matters to court. It's within his rights.
It's within his rights, yes?
Yes. They deal with their matters by taking them to court directly.
I agree.
We deal with our matters by using our well-refined system of complaining and fault-finding. And then we go to town on it.
And protesting.
Yes.
So I can tell you this for a fact. The leaders have a problem. It's the leaders which have a problem, not the body itself. Because I can tell you, when IEBC was coming, there was IIEC. And they were saying, let us change from IIEC, let us have another body that is going to be better than IIEC. When they got IEBC, and, things didn't go someone's way, there was still fracas, right? Why? Because I can tell you this. If a certain politician doesn't dispute the tally, there would be no fracas.
All right, Ed.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
0719-012-600. A comment here from Justus. Petitioning is part of the process, part of the inbuilt redress mechanism. It's not a sign of failure. The problem lies with the IEBC clients, that is, politicians and power brokers, whose core strategy is undermining public confidence in institutions, including the IEBC. Failure to do its job is not necessarily fraud. Yeah, if a body, it's not foolproof. All right, throughout that entire process, there'll be kinks here and there, and that is where the court comes in and says, all right, here you missed a step in the process, or here you went astray, and that's why we are declaring that this was null and void, and therefore we are ordering a by-election. We are ordering a repeat election in this particular constituency. Why? Because the body that is supposed to fight to do that is a judiciary, has found that. Now, if we just allow that process to go on, and it's always the process that goes on, if we don't, keep poking holes at saying, that returning officer, what's his name? That guy belongs to the other side. Just let people do their job, and then you do yours.
Because now this is something that, because of the fact that it has previously been felt that this was a body you could manipulate, that's where it comes up. Look, however you choose to look at it, somebody felt, look, if we have control in whatever shape or form over this body, we could then, again, manipulate the results of a particular election. And like we've said, most cases, it is a presidential election that it looks. manipulation of the results is something that is a reality. And that's why you have the problem. So now you're saying, essentially, if you are allowing the IEBC to do its job, you're also releasing your reins, the strength of your reins on power.
Yep.
Or of control.
Yep.
And we have got to get to that point where that you're okay. And it's a scary thing for these folks who've manipulated this body before. That you're okay with these guys to do their job. And that whatever the result of what they relate to you, you're going to accept because it is what the people have said. There has been no manipulation. And it's wearing the big boy pants to be able to do that. Honestly, it sounds like something that will be so... It's going to be difficult for people to be able to release the hold that they have on this kind of control. Because that means that you will actually sit and wait for the results like everybody else, and that you're going to be okay if it doesn't go your way.
Ask yourself this question. Do you really think that those who are sent to these seats of the commissioners of, say, the IEBC, that they are different from other Kenyans?
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Now, I don't doubt that they mean well. Just like I don't doubt that most people who are elected to be parliamentarians mean well. They genuinely do. So what are we looking at here? Is it just manipulation, or is it biases that already exist in us being exploited? Or is it that even with the selection, because it is selection, remember, and on this one Eric is absolutely right, because it isn't as though one party selected, for instance, the people who went to who are the IBC commission. No. Every party, people, diverse views were allowed into that IBC. So, or is it that if something isn't going our way, then it can't possibly be right?
Yes, but that's how it has been.
That's the bottom line.
That's how it has been all this time. That if you don't like the way something is going, then you're going to say, okay, hold on. Is there no way I can kind of control this thing to make sure that I will be happy with the results?
And
That's
it's a dishonesty from the part of the political
It's
class.
fraud.
Because when you are pushing to have, for example, IPPG, having other people participate in the selection of the commissioners, it's because that's what they wanted. They wanted to ensure that this one party does not have the bigger say,
Yes.
and therefore the control and manipulation of this body.
So they were willing to allow other people to come in because they were the other people who wanted to come in, or their representatives.
So, yes. But then they got in and they wanted, they were coming in so that they can play a part in manipulating. Not to come in and insulate this body from manipulation. Unfortunately. We'll continue these conversations in coming days. It's coming up to the top of the hour, but we want to hear about this proverb and how it relates to our everyday life today.
When a king reigns, it is thanks to the people. When a river sings, it is thanks to the stone. Leadership often seems to take the people it leads for granted. When you look at a river, unless you step on a stone and slip on it, it's very easy to forget that rivers actually have stones at the foundation of it. And that they're an integral part of that very variable that you're looking at. Now, if you look at everyday life, the question that you'd like to ask is, how many things do you interact with and which you absolutely take for granted? And you take the view, or you behave as though, after all, it is there and it will always be there. Now, this discussion we're having lent itself to this proverb very, very directly. The stones and the people are the same item in this proverb. And it appears that when decisions are made, we now have a BBI discussion. The stones are not being given credit for the singing that is going on.
Sana. See you again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's now 10 o'clock. Good morning.